Zhuo Fan's eyes gleam with cold calculation as he offers a hostage exchange for his son, but the soaring sword's return only tightens the noose around him. Bailey Jingwei watches from his throne, and the black flame that consumed a Sword King's strength now threatens to swallow everything. Like and subscribe to see whose ambition burns first. Say, kid, just what are you looking for in the cave? Having looked over most of the cave, yet not particularly interested in anything there, or maybe they were beneath him, one man got curious since he also didn't start choosing his party. Zhuo Fan's eyes shone and looked at the puzzled people, looking for someone, a messenger. Messenger, precisely, Zhuo Fan grinned. I need a runner, someone to send a letter to Flying Cloud Manor to set a place for a hostage exchange. The clansmen were curious, exchange hostages. Sure, the soaring sword for my son, humph, Zhuo Fan scoffed. Shangyuan clan elders were stumped but also annoyed. For crying out loud, wasn't that sword supposed to be for us? How'd you use it in an exchange? Zhuo Fan easily read their faces and smiled. It's obviously a ruse. If it were that easy to get my son in an exchange with Bailey Jingwei, I'd have done it already. Why would I waste time coming here of all places? Since I can't put stock in Bailey Jingwei to follow through with the switch, I'll be needing you guys' help. Though if you feel disinclined to lend a hand or two, I'll just have to go out on a limb. It's all the same to me, really. No, we're glad to help, glad. The elders rushed to reassure him, feeling sweat trickling down their necks. For God's sake, if this punk makes the switch, that'll make all the losses we incurred all for nothing. They could trade with the kid to get the sword, but once it landed in Bailey Jingwei's hands, all hope was lost. So Zhuo Fan had them on a leash, dangling the sword in front of their eyes to do his bidding and making them readjust their attitudes. They were scared that any mood change would push the kid into skipping them for their enemy. One man's pain is another man's joy. This led to the elders treating Zhuo Fan like their ancestor, hanging on every word and following it without question, while the onlooking disciples were looking baffled all this time. Do our elders have no dignity? What are they doing hanging around some brat? What about the honor of the Shangyuan clan? Why, it's not me. Every disciple there looked at Zhuo Fan with envy. Not even the successors of the clan were given such respect, and they were the future. Ignoring the blatant dagger stares on his person, Zhuo Fan took a round trip around the place, only to end it with a frown and a sigh. Isn't there any soul harmony stage disciple around? Boy, such disciples are rare, barely a few of them around. Of the ones we brought, leaving Shangyu and Yulin, the only ones left are the two you beat up. One venerable rushed to answer but then was puzzled. Does it have to be a soul harmony stage disciple? What does cultivation have to do with sending a message? Zhuo Fan shook his head. If only it were that simple. This job comes with a high risk of dying. What? Everyone gasped. Ignoring their squeaks, Zhuo Fan chided. What's with the whining? What's the big deal about using one life? Didn't you already use so many back in Flying Cloud Manor for the soaring sword? I'm only asking for one, so that's a win for you. I need a soul harmony stage cultivator because his self-destruction has to be at that level at the least. An ethereal stage one would hardly have any effect in deafening Shangyu and Feiyan. I want a disciple out of consideration for you elders. Since you're almighty important to the clan, I can't just as well ask you to die. Then again, since there's no disciple around, Zhuo Fan's eyes scanned the oldies with a creepy smile. They shuddered and jumped in fright. Why the hell would we go back to Flying Cloud Manor just to blow up? Would they fear Shangyu and Feiyan, a sword king, if blowing up had worked? No, it was precisely because it couldn't even scratch him that they didn't feel like blowing themselves up for nothing. Now that Zhuo Fan asked them this, they were put on the spot. Zhuo Fan was totally right. So many died to get the soaring sword, and now only one more was needed. But sometimes, a clan had to ignore the pragmatic solution in favor of the ethical one. So many died in their raid of the manor for soaring sword, but that was in the name of the clan. Because of their deaths, the survivors cared even more about the clan. That was called being united. While being ready to sacrifice one member to get to their goal, that was the same as throwing away all ethics, morals, and the clansmen's devotion all these years. The collapse of the clan would only be a matter of time. Standing united was the clan's foundation. Zhuo Fan was no Shangyuan clansman and would simply write this off, but the elders could not just destroy the clan's morale because of a bit of danger. They'd rather take the worst outcome, with them dying in hundreds for their goal, instead of killing off one of them for it. This was never about gain and loss, it was about spirit. With their morale crushed, there was no team. The elders looked at each other, but they all shook their heads. Zhuo Fan's eyes shook. They're not the fools I took them for, at least. They know when to put their foot down. But I need a man for my dastardly plan. Since Shangyun clan is out, what now? Zhuo Fan sunk into deep thought. Ah, a cry echoed throughout the cave like a squealing pig. It was oddly familiar to Zhuo Fan, who's whining like that. Humph, who else but Shangyun Yulin the traitor? One venerable spat in disgust. Zhuo Fan lit up and a broad smile crept on his face. People, is this condemned traitor still considered one of you? Could you lend him to me, though I don't plan on returning him? Well, they looked at each other and then sported smirks. A venerable laughed, sure, please do. We were still uncertain if we should go for death penalty or torture him first for his heavy crimes. Since Mr. Gu wants him, I believe using his life for the divine sword is enough to absolve him. That'd be so great, what do you guys think, ha ha ha? The others laughed along with knowing looks. Alas, the poor Shangyun Yulin had once again hit rock bottom in the hands of the devilish Zhuo Fan. Now that's fate or maybe a nightmare, hee hee hee. Zhuo Fan snickered along with the other elders, the sound bouncing off the walls and making it even creepier. A sudden chill crawled down everyone's spine, feeling like demons were cackling in their ears. In a closed room, Shangyun Yulin was having the torture of his life. He was deformed in the process, hung to a stone pole and sealed of his cultivation. An elder with black beard clamped his shoulder and sent Yuan Qi inside him without qualms, so that his bones would creak and his tendons would snap in the most gruesome way possible. Hence the agonizing cries. The elder demanded, "What else did you tell Shangyun Feiyun? Talk, does he know about this place?" Sixth elder, have mercy. Sobbing from all the pain, Shangyun Yulin wailed, "Sirs asked me 1,000 times already. I already told you, Shangyun Feiyun only wanted to kill the experts, not to eliminate you completely. He doesn't know of this place. He still wanted me to get back to Eastern lands as a spy. He didn't even ask about our meeting place. Please have mercy." Sixth elder huffed and ramped up the pain. "So you want to go back as a spy, is it? No matter how many times I hear it, it still fills me with absolute rage, making me wish I could skin you alive. Screw you. You don't care, but I am being asked the same thing over and oh, og. Mercy, I was wrong. Sixth elder, spare me. I want to see my uncle. Uncle, save me." Shangyun Yulin once again howled in pain and tears. The heavy stone door opened with a creak in his most desperate need, and a familiar and most unwelcome laughter reached him. "Ha ha ha, easy with the cries, your uncle can't save you now. But your master might have something that does." Startled, the two inside looked to see Zhuo Fan walk in with a wide smile, his ridiculing words mocking Shangyun Yulin's wretched situation. Yulin's pulse quickened, his eyes widened, his face bore shock. What is going on here? What's this traitor doing here? And more importantly, what got him so confident to come here? Since every Shangyun clansman saw him as a traitor, it made not 1 ounce of sense for him to just waltz in here. Questions upon questions filled Shangyun Yulin's mind, yet there was no answer to lift the confusion, no sign to clear his doubts. Soon, though, none of it even mattered, not when the hatred of revenge took over his faculties and was reduced to just crunching his teeth in rage. It was all this guy's fault that he, Shangyun Yulin, had his bright future as a double agent ruined. It all went down the drain the minute Gu Yifan popped into the picture. He betrayed the Shangyun clan and was now under their strict and creative torture, while also losing his value to Shangyun Feiyun. He was now so revolting, none saw him as a human being anymore. Everyone despised him, everyone hated him. What was worse, he now had no future, all because of this demon, Gu Yifan. Shangyun Yulin's fury only grew as all his failures came to mind. Looking at the insufferable smug face and that demeaning smile, he'd want for nothing more than to tear him apart piece by bloody piece. The thing that took the last straw was that the punk faked being some big-shot demonic cultivator to toy with him, and even had to knock his head on the floor for that. It was a humiliation this young master could never ever accept. What emperor would prostrate to a filthy, flea-ridden beggar? Anyone would be better than this freak. Everyone had their limits, whether aware of it or not. Shangyun Yulin's was Zhuo Fan. Anyone can be better than me, but not this bastard. I'm superior to you in every way. This was none other than Shangyun Yulin's pride talking. It stemmed from his deep disdain of Zhuo Fan from the very start. He just couldn't let go of it. Or maybe his obsession with Shangyun Qingyan, who ended up getting close to Zhuo Fan, that he couldn't overcome. In any case, while the entire event was made clear to any casual observer, he was still stuck in the past, blinded with his head stuck in the sand. The same guy he viewed as inferior, as a mere smudge towards his glorious future, ended up being an expert in deep disguise. He would never accept it and would do anything to justify this fact to himself, to the point of being incapable of thinking basic questions as to why Zhuo Fan could just strut in here. All that came out was vitriol and bloodlust. Sixth elder, he is the reason why we lost so many people in the Flying Cloud Manor. He gave us a fake map, Sir has to grab him and avenge them all. Sixth elder gave Zhuo Fan an icy look. He hardly talked with Zhuo Fan in the Gu household and knew how things transpired, thus labeling him as a double agent as well. Since he was too busy carving into Shangyun Yulin in here, he was not part of Zhuo Fan's enlightening and inexorable speech held outside. In short, he was oblivious of Zhuo Fan and the Shangyuan clan's deal. He was now thinking of nothing else but catching this traitor and giving him a re-education he wouldn't forget. Sixth elder hated his kind the most. He shot for Zhuo Fan, bearing his bloodthirsty palm on Zhuo Fan to grab him. Late Genesis stage power slammed into Zhuo Fan and pinned him on the spot, yet it didn't seem to affect him, as if he chose to stay put, if that smile was anything to go by. Shangyuan Yulin snickered, relishing his mortal enemy's plight. No matter how Sixth Elder was raging and his attack seemed deadly, it was only meant to seize and not kill. That's how you deal with spies. You capture them for interrogation, not kill them. Though that wasn't to say the process was pain-free. The grip on Zhuo Fan's shoulder would be so tight, all the bones would snap like twigs. Then there's the pain, followed by a world of hurt, as each day something new is done to you to relish newfound agony, Shangyuan Yulin was actually looking forward to what came, snickering to himself as he pictured Zhuo Fan hanging from a rack with hooks in him. I'm the young master of Shangyuan clan. A traitor will be deformed, twisted, tormented under all the pain he's inflicted upon. To an outsider like you, that goes double. Let's see how long you last under Sixth Elder's deft hands. I bet you'll be far more miserable than me, but at least you'll put me at ease, hi. Shangyuan Yulin cackled in his mind, rapture clearly painted on his face, his eyes obsessed with turning those twisted thoughts into reality that he was already picturing Zhuo Fan bleeding, even as the attack had yet to land. He perked his ears, ready to relish Zhuo Fan's shoulder crumble like glass, the symphony soothing his disturbed mind. I've waited days for this. There's no better joy out there. Sixth, stop. An aged hand came out of the darkness and grabbed Sixth Elder's cruel hand before it even reached its target. Sixth Elder started and found one of Shangyuan clan's 3 venerables next to him and the many other elders coming in. Sixth Elder shook. What? Mr. Gu is a guest and needs to be treated with respect. The venerable gave him a look and pulled Sixth Elder to the side to whisper in his ear. Sixth Elder jerked, bobbed his head and returned to Zhuo Fan with new eyes. I ask Mr. Gu's forgiveness for my earlier ignorant transgression. Dong, while the cave was awfully peaceful, the same didn't apply to Shangyuan Yulin's mind, feeling like bombs went off constantly. Gone from his elated state of hoping to see Zhuo Fan suffer, Shangyuan Yulin's mind was broken. What the hell? Why are the elders treating him like some prized pony? They weren't like this even around Uncle. There's no fault in ignorance. I may not be much, but at least I'm kind, Zhuo Fan never registered Shangyuan Yulin's shocked eyes, closing in with his chest held high, putting on some mighty airs while taking a look around. What base chambers. There's not even a chair around. Since Mr. Gu says it must, then it has to have one. One elder shouted, Guard, get Mr. Gu a laurel chair. What do you mean we don't have one? Get clan heads from the meeting hall if you have to. Yes, sir. A reply came from outside, and in no time flat, a disciple brought the chair behind Zhuo Fan for him to rest his laurels. But not before the thoughtful disciple gave it a good cleaning with his sleeve. Mr. Gu, please, Since there isn't, why bother? I'm not one to nitpick, With a smug grin, Zhuo Fan faked modesty as he made himself most comfortable in the prized chair. But this wasn't the end of it, not by far. Zhuo Fan gave a disapproving look around like something was missing and coughed. Catching his drift, one elder shouted, Get a table and tea, damn fools, are you blind? How could you forget about the rest when you brought the chair? Yes, elder. 2 disciples were quick to arrive, gently placing a table next to Zhuo Fan. The other carefully placed the tea for their prized guest. Grinning from ear to ear, Zhuo Fan leaned into the chair, the clan head's chair, like a boss. He then made a show of picking his cup and sipping once with one of the most exaggerated expressions of joy ever. This is the life, Shangyuan Yulin, dangling from his pole, twitched, his broken heart now in pieces. His greatest hope these past torturous days was to see Zhuo Fan go through the same agony. What the hell? Why is showing off? What's with the elders? Why are they serving him like their ancestor, if not better? Have you no dignity, old coots? Shangyuan Yulin howled in his mind, but Zhuo Fan's taunting face made him gnash his teeth in fury. Gu Yifan, did heaven place you on this earth just so you can torture me? With the fragrant tea safely in his belly, Zhuo Fan casually held the cup with a relishing sigh as he smiled and gestured at Shangyuan Yulin. In a damp and dark hole such as this, some hot tea feels like heaven. Ain't that so, guys? Yeah, Mr. Gu knows how to enjoy life, The elders went into a constant praising spree, all while sporting wide smiles. Zhuo Fan could pretty much say anything and they'd still accept it. Shangyuan Yulin's face twitched from anguish. It cut so deep that death was starting to look oddly inviting. Then it dawned on him. Zhuo Fan was putting this overblown display after all those days spent under the knife and now actually turned out to be the worst torture of his life. In the words of Confucius, with socialism, fear not scarcity but inequality, not poverty but instability. The reverse applied just as well. In these two's case, the pain was amplified greatly when one was having the time of his life, while if the other had suffered, then no matter the torture received, it would never strip away the joy he felt if he got to see the other suffer. This was divergence, this was human nature. But to a most ambitious young man that had struggled all his life, he could never bear to watch another enjoying the dreams he yearned for. Zhuo Fan was basking in the elders' attention and praises, wallowing in more respect than a clan head would receive. What made it worse, it was none other than Zhuo Fan who was reaping the rewards, the one guy he despised with all his being. It translated into more than just bruised ego for the young lad, it was crushed along with his heart. Why, we're both spies for Shangyun Feiyan, so why do you hail him and not me? I'm still a young master of Shangyun Feiyan. He's just an outsider, why are you treating him so? Shangyun Yulin's heart was consumed with jealousy, tinting his suffering in a harsher light. Zhuo Fan's eyes shone. That ought to do for foreplay. He regarded the elders, seniors, please give us the room. I wish to have a private word with my disciple. Would it be possible? Sure, we're here to fulfill all of Mr. Gu's requests, ha ha ha. The venerables saluted and led the men out, then we'll be taking our leave. Mr. Gu, if there's anything at all, just ask. The heavy stone door rumbled and shut this dark cave. Shangyun Yulin felt numb. How are they the great elders of Shangyun Yulin? All I see is lapdogs with no dignity. The minute the door was shut, the elders' beaming smiles turned upside down, grief taking hold. Sixth elder taunted, brothers, big and small, who knew you had such nasty sides to you, ha ha ha. Just don't. The punk wanted us to play along, that's the only reason we'd gone through such indignity. The elder who asked for a chair and table rolled his eyes, certain he'd never hear the end of this from his brothers since he hated this disgraceful crap the most. The others' teasing glances proved it. One venerable waved and became serious. That's enough banter. This is a crucial matter. Using an already compromised spy to send a message is dangerous enough and might lead to unforeseen mistakes. Understanding this is the most important. The boy is adept in mind games, and the faster we get our pawn, Shangyun Yulin, to fall in line the better. We'll lose everything if he unravels on his way there. Gu Yifan is shrewd and daring, never leaving anything to chance. We've seen it for ourselves. How can he fail when he played Bailey Jingwei as well? Although he did that from the shadows and held the advantage of being overlooked. Now that he's going against Bailey Jingwei in the open, with his son on the line, he's bound to be doubly careful. What's so bad about using some of our integrity in exchange for the soaring sword? Another venerable spoke up. The men nodded, no longer depressed by the demeaning act they were forced to perform. After the elders left, Zhuo Fan was left alone with Shangyun Yulin in the dark cave. He placed the cup down gently and stood. Aren't you curious about how they're hanging on my every word? Shangyun Yulin rolled his eyes. Screw you, go ahead you bastard, keep pretending till you get sick of it. You're a prisoner here, and so am I, we're both traitors to the clan, so you shouldn't hate me. I'll be honest, we're both the same. Zhuo Fan sighed, his eyes taking a forlorn tint. Out of consideration to young Sanzi, I only wanted to take Shangyun Qingyan back to the clan and then leave, but they just grabbed me after being found out. I'm just as trapped as you are at this point. Shangyun Yulin glared and mocked, trapped. From this angle you're more like a king. All the elders are kissing your feet, almost throwing Yanner at you and the clan head spot. What's there not to like about that? Clan head, ha ha ha, I'm not their kin and have priors. My track record isn't exactly spotless. You think they'll put someone like me at the helm? Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow, you're overthinking things. And besides, the only reason they show respect is so they can get the one thing they want the most. Shangyun Yulin gasped, soaring sword. Yes, that thing. Zhuo Fan's eyes shone. I have possession of the soaring sword and they have to play ball, all while attempting to string me to let it slip where the divine sword is at. Even honey trap is considered. What? Slow your roll, they haven't cracked me yet. Shangyun Yulin tensed in reflex. Of the Shangyun clansmen coming to the central area, there was just one girl included. The honey trap could only mean. Shangyun Yulin's mind did not finish the thought as Zhuo Fan came to reassure him. Then he snickered, my nerves are of steel, though I don't think they'll last much longer. You know it too, that Yanner. Shut your mouth, you can't call her like that, Shangyun Yulin cursed. Zhuo Fan waved him off, having found his leverage on the punk and went on the offensive. It's not my fault. Those guys keep getting us together. They promise that I just have to give them the soaring sword and I'll become their son-in-law, having all the power. You know I'm stalwart. The thought of my son in the hands of Shangyun Feiyan is what kept me from refusing for so long. I still wish to use the sword to get my son back. Off you go, then. Why the hell are you rambling about Yanner to me? Don't you think I'd have done it by now if I could, dumbass? Would those bastards outside ever allow me to go through with it? Zhuo Fan sneered. The oldies were just outside, ears glued to the door and boiling mad. Bastards, he knows we're here listening yet has the nerve to call us names. Shangyun Feixing and Shangyun Qingyan just came over and listened in. The minute Zhuo Fan's words about hooking them up were heard, Shangyun Qingyan went beet red, her eyes furious. Though for no particular reason, she had a bashful smile as well. She knew it was all part of Zhuo Fan's plan. Shangyun Yulin's brows shook at the mere mention of Shangyun Qingyan. Then what do you want? I'm under constant watch but only kept here. I am confined to this cave like a prisoner. Zhuo Fan's eyes shone. That's why I need someone to send Flying Cloud Manor a message to set up an exchange place. The minute I get a breather, I'll rush to get my son back. As for my trail, I'm sure the people of the manor are more than happy to settle them. It's simply borrowing strength. Shangyun Yulin stared hard at Zhuo Fan. Of course it is, using Flying Cloud Manor to help yourself get away. This in turn let him see Zhuo Fan's point and smirked. You mean to have me go? Exactly. I did say we're the same, you and I. We can't stay with the Shangyun clan and you need a new home, no? That makes you the only one I can trust since our goals align. Since we both want to leave, you won't sell me out. Grinning, Zhuo Fan said, since I have the soaring sword, Shangyun clan sees me as precious. They won't just let me go, but they're happy to fulfill all my wishes. I'll ask them to free you and then you can send my message. We'll work together so we'll both get what we want, right? Win-win, Shangyun Yulin squinted and mocked. Sounds too good to be true. You win, I win, everybody wins. But tell me this, why on earth should I help you? You said it yourself, everybody wins. Or do you plan on spending the rest of your life in Shangyun clan's torture chamber, spending every second of it in unadulterated agony? And, Shangyun Yulin haughtily said, I'd willingly stay in the 9th circle of hell so long as you're a couple circles above. I may know only pain, but seeing you right there beside me with a wretched look will be a sobering experience, ha ha ha. Zhuo Fan sighed, do you hate me that much? We don't have anything against each other. I only fooled you a few times now. Getting you to knock your head on the floor, carved degenerate demon on your chest, made you shout master this and master that, had you grovel at my feet, but only for a couple of times then. Was that all? I honestly can't recall. Mess, that should be it, right? You want more, isn't that goddamn enough? His face twitched with every sore spot that Zhuo Fan thoroughly skewered, bringing his anger to an all-time high. Gu Yifan, you're nothing but a foul rat. I come from a respected house, the Shangyun clan. Do you really think that having toyed, humiliated, and tortured me so many times does not warrant my burning hatred for you? I rather choose death before dishonor. The world isn't big enough for the both of us. I'll be sure to return every indignity you subjected to me 1,000 times over, and I'll start with your precious son, ha ha ha. Zhuo Fan just stared as Shangyun Yulin cackled. The elders eavesdropping shook their heads. One venerable sighed, I never knew Shangyun Yulin knows only cruelty. Such luck we managed to see his true colors in time. He would have only grown to become a disease upon the clan once he takes the seat, just as wretched as Shangyun Feiyan. Yeah, Shangyun Feixing sighed, feeling regret. Yulin was a good seed among the disciples, only to find out he had a twisted mind. One venerable was not so quick to agree. Although Shangyun Yulin is vile, he has his reasons. It was that endless humiliation that brought him so low. Tell me, would any of you be able to take the high road and have a clear conscience when Gu Yifan toyed with you? That had them all second-guessing their rash nods. Ha ha ha, maybe we couldn't. This just goes to show what a real player this guy is. Shangyun Qingyan giggled and Shangyun Feixing glared. A man is never to be demeaned. Dignity is most important to a practitioner. Gu Yifan is even more twisted, having humiliated and played Shangyun Yulin like a fiddle, so why are you laughing? Shangyun Qingyan covered her mouth before any laughter slipped again. She knew this wasn't right, but just picturing Shangyun Yulin banging his head on the ground before Zhuo Fan's feet was most hilarious. Has her proper and handsome cousin ever gone through such low times? Mr. Gu is such a bad guy. Her mind was saying something while her curving lips betrayed her true feelings. Shangyun Feixing sighed and shook his head. So you won't help me? Zhuo Fan asked earnestly after he waited for Shangyun Yulin's cackle to die out, though the guy didn't know when to quit. Help you. Maybe in another life, ha ha ha. Even as I'll be cooked alive, I'd still laugh just thinking of the grief of losing your son, hi hi hi. Such pain is definitely there. Zhuo Fan sighed but then smiled, though it's bound to last 5 years, 100 tops. With our long lives, it's like a drop in the bucket. It'll pass anyway. Having descendants and spending time with them will be sure to numb the pain. Shangyun Yulin shook. Time with descendants? Well, you can't expect me never to move on. He's only a son. Zhuo Fan put on an evil smirk. Speaking of, the chance of a house filled with children is right now knocking on my door. Your uncle and elders are begging me to take the apple of their eyes, all for a measly soaring sword. So you can keep your help and I just have to accept the loss of a son to move on and make some more. I'll go to Yanner right now, get the buns in the oven so they can't weasel out. It'll make giving the soaring sword all the more a sound decision. Your uncle can't have his little girl turn a widow so fast either. As for you, my good disciple, whether stuck in hell or pushing through it, remains to be seen if you'll see me wallow in misery over the loss of my son or bask in the laughter of my kin, ha ha ha. Zhuo Fan walked to the door having finished his piece. Shangyuan Yulin was left stumped. How could I forget? He doesn't actually need to get his son, not when there's another choice with an endless future waiting. His son might die, but he'll have a pretty wife and be surrounded by kids. And I, nothing more than a patsy, fated to die either way. Seeing him smile from hell will only pour acid on my wounds. How can I have such rotten luck? Any choice will get me killed, while his choices all promise a nice and cozy future. And by not saving his poor son, he'd become Shangyun clan's son-in-law, rising higher. It was something this young master with an "if you're there to suffer along" mentality could not accept. So Shangyun Yulin cried out, "Wait, back up. I agree, how can I not? All I'm asking is that you keep your distance from Yanner." Zhuo Fan paused and looked back with a devious smile, finally fell for it, bastard. Amazing. A venerable praised, the kid's mind games are ridiculously good, toying with Yulin's feelings and thoughts. He has the other's state of mind under control, ergo his desires. What do you guys think now of the previous indignity? It was because of that little show we put on that Shangyuan Yulin believes we value the soaring sword so much that we would listen to Gu Yifan, especially about using Yanner as leverage. That hit him right where it hurt. They all bobbed their heads like wise men, with another venerable turning to Shangyuan Fakesheng. Fakesheng, take notes. This is the kind of mentality you should have as a clan head, as the leader of Eastern lands. Me, learn from him. Shangyuan Fakesheng went red in the face. Gu Yifan is just a junior, and, the way I see it, you're the youth in his 20s here with how naive you are, while he's the real monster living through ages with his cunningness. Smiling, the venerable said, "Don't you see? Even old guys like us are learning from him." The venerable pointed, and Shangyuan Fakesheng was shocked to see his oldies taking out jade slips and recording. Shangyuan Fakesheng's face twitched. That is called taking notes. Shangyuan Fakesheng was this close to spewing blood from the shock. These millennia-old geezers were as shameless as rash teenagers. Where's your self-respect? Shangyuan Kingyan was the only one angry, stomping away through them. Don't just write everything. It's nothing but empty words. Stop at once. Everyone gave her odd looks. What's up, Yanner? Shangyuan Fakesheng sighed and shook his head. Yanner, are you angry at him for his untrue words and sulling your name, or is it at him for not following through with it? Ha ha ha. Ignorant of all the ruckus outside, Zhuo Fan flicked his hand and the chains were off Shangyuan Yulin. Then he threw him on the ground. Hey, what's that for? I agreed, didn't I? Quiet. Zhuo Fan shouted for him to stop talking. You did agree, but there's nothing trustworthy about you. I'll have to leave my mark on you again in case you get any ideas along the way. Just you try. Zhuo Fan chopped at his neck and the guy was out like a light. He placed a hand on his back and his right eye flashed with the black thunderflame, surging as it followed the hand and into Shangyuan Yulin. So let me get this straight. Gu Yifan wants to make a deal with me, the soaring sword for his son. But since Shangyuan clan has him confined, he sent you as messenger. 3 days later, at the Flying Cloud Manor in the dazzling hall to be precise, Bailey Jingwei was in the main chair, sipping his tea and muttering. His eyes shone while staring forward, Shangyuan Feiyan and Danking Shen at his sides. A shivering, distraught, and familiar guy, also covered with wounds, was fighting to keep his composure as he just stood there. He kept on shivering and looking worried as he bobbed his head. He really asked me to pass this message. Here's a jade slip he personally made if you don't believe me. It also holds his soul's signature. Shangyuan Yulin presented it with shaky hands and Bailey Jingwei casually took it. He nodded to Shangyuan Feiyan. It's Gu Yifan's all right. He wants us to meet up 100 miles from here on Flourishing Mountain. What an utter waste of time. Back when he was here, he said he wanted to give the divine sword for his kid, but then he just ran off. Now he makes the request himself. Humph, I can't tell if he's brilliant or boneheaded. Shangyuan Feiyan read the jade slip as well and just threw it to Danking Shen. It looked as if Zhuo Fan was giving up with this message, but only Bailey Jingwei could read between the lines. You can't say that, not when Gu Yifan is so sharp. A man of character doesn't take risks. With how we had them surrounded before, if the exchange took place, he'd never be at ease. He wouldn't accept it even if I came to another place. But then he comes back with this proposal, which means he made himself an exit again. Quite sensible, now he must be thinking how to taunt both sides into fighting so he could slip away. Humph, as if that'll work. Hasn't he had enough toying with me and now he comes back for more? Shangyuan Feiyan mocked, his eyes spewing flames of rage. The humiliation of being made to play catch was still fresh in his mind. Bailey Jingwei had an explanation for that too, his eyes shining. Sword King Feiyun, don't let emotions cloud your judgment. We're after the Shangyuan clan in the end. Now we just have to get the soaring sword, and there's no harm if he uses us once more. Not since it'll work in our favor, ha ha ha, only. Bailey Jingwei's collected smile showed his decision was made, but then his sharp eyes landed on Shangyuan Yulin below, making him reel under the intense gaze. There's something I can't figure out, young Master Shangyuan. Sure, asking for the Shangyuan clan to release you sounds fair, but there's only bad blood between you two. Not even desperate times warrant him trustworthy. Does he actually trust you so much to send his message? This involves his son, after all. Shangyuan Yulin grimaced, bowing before them with a distraught face. Prime Minister is correct. The guy never trusted me. That's why he left something in my body. Look. Shangyuan Yulin showed his arm. The trio's eyes twitched at once, their heartbeat spiking. Shangyuan Yulin's arm had something foul and vile wiggling under his skin, like hundreds of worms fighting to come out. Shangyuan Feiyun yanked his wrist and checked with his yuan qi, but the discovery had him gasping. Damn, you're a nest for worms now. Shangyuan Feiyun's face shook hard, pointing at him. This guy has thousands of bloody worms burrowed inside him that just won't die. Not even my yuan qi had any effect on them. This is freaky. The other two regarded him gravely. Once the disgusting arm was back under wraps, Shangyuan Yulin's pale face looked astonished. Prime Minister, now you see why he let me come. He knocked me out throughout the process, only for me to wake up and realize my body was swarming with these putrid maggots. He told me they're bloodworms, like marrow-burrowing maggots. Only he or my body's destruction will release me of these things. But giving up my body will mean a decrease in cultivation and halt in progress. He only had me deliver a message, something I found wholly beneath the worth of ruining my future. Now, if you agree, I still have to get back with the answer. He only gave me 10 days before the worms act up and feast on my blood essence. That'll ruin my body. Bailey Jingwei nodded at Shangyuan Yulin's whining like an old biddy, his doubts removed and now believing in the letter. Who'd have thought an alchemist like Gu Yifan would be capable of such nasty business? Shangyuan Feiyun huffed. Bailey Jingwei nodded. All men of renown have walked over thousands of corpses to get where they are since time immemorial. A true man knows when to act and be decisive. It'd be so much easier to handle Gu Yifan if he were kinder. At least we didn't need to be so wary of him. Young Master Yulin, there's just something that evades my understanding. I hope you can clear it up for me. Bailey Jingwei began. Since Shangyuan clan let you go, they must have gotten ready for it. I'm sorry to say, but they switched places the moment you left, since no one trusts you and all. So then, how are you going to get back to Gu Yifan? Shangyuan Yulin bowed. Prime Minister, I cannot find him, but we have a meeting spot where he can find me. He just has to pick up the reply. I'll leave him there, and he'll release control of the bloodworms. As for removing them, that will have to wait for after the exchange takes place. That's quite cautious of him, unafraid you might botch it, and even giving you a sliver of hope so you'd follow through. A truly pragmatic man who knows when to act in his benefit. His methods are terribly effective. Bailey Jingwei turned to his left and right. Sword Kings, do you have any questions? Shangyuan Feiyun and Danking Shen shook their heads, speaking at once. Prime Minister's decision is enough. We have nothing to add. Great, that settles it then. Regardless of the soaring sword's location and whether Gu Yifan's intentions are real in this exchange, I still want to try, ha ha ha. Bailey Jingwei's eyes shone as he laughed. He took out a jade slip and put something in it before giving it to Shangyuan Yulin. Young master, here's my reply. Take it to Gu Yifan. I accept his offer and we'll meet in half a month. Shangyuan Yulin gave a deep bow as he took it, though he looked hesitant standing in the same spot. Bailey Jingwei asked, aren't you on the clock? What's holding you back from finishing your mission? Prime Minister, well, Gu Yifan has another matter for sending me. Its conclusion will decide whether Prime Minister's reply feels honest to him or not, if he would come or not. And what's that? Bailey Jingwei followed. Shangyuan Yulin began, Prime Minister, I would like to see if his son is safe. Absurd. A felon like him will get his son only when he gives the soaring sword. Why on earth will I reveal his location to that bastard beforehand? You take me for a 3-year-old, using slick words to get me to spill his location so you could bust him out. Shangyuan Feiyun snapped in rage. Shangyuan Yulin sighed, Uncle Feiyun, please don't be angry with me. I don't want to see the brat either, but that's what Gu Yifan said. If his son is dead, then the soaring sword exchange will go to the dogs. God damn it, who are you calling a dog? No, uncle, that's not me but Gu Yifan's words. Shangyuan Feiyun exploded in rage and power, making Shangyuan Yulin shudder and turn frantic in explaining himself. Curse you, Gu Yifan, you have me go send a message and even mock the other. Now my head is on the line while you're just laid back home. The only reason I'm doing this job for you is because of those damn bloodworms. All he could do now was brace, uncle, please calm down. It's quite normal for a father to miss his son after such a long time and be concerned about him, ha ha ha. Shang Yuan Feiyan sighed and nodded. Bailey Jingwei's eyes shone, never leaving Shang Yuan Yulin out of sight as his lips curled dangerously. Then you can go and tell him his son is safe and sound, treated like a prince. He can make the exchange without worry. As for seeing him, ha ha ha, I find it unnecessary. Bailey Jingwei showed a crafty smile as he sipped tea. Shang Yuan Feiyan mocked, yep, so go ahead and tell him that. It's not like he has some divine eye that can tell him if you have seen the kid or not. I wish it were that simple. Shang Yuan Yulin sighed in distress. You know as well the punk is lively as a monkey. He won't be fooled with just that. He told me he and his son had a signal. I need to see the child in person and relay this signal. When I reply, he'll only believe if I come with the matching signal, or he'd believe his son is dead and the deal is off. He'll just give the sword to Shang Yuan Yulin and throw his lot with them. Shang Yuan Feiyan cried out, there's something like that, you just have to see the brat. It seems like it. Shang Yuan Yulin had no intention of seeing Gu Santong if he could help it, which he couldn't. He was always scared here, in the flying cloud manner, and the faster he left, the better. There was no way he could feel safe, not when Shang Yuan Feiyan was right there flexing his power. Shang Yuan Feiyan frowned and turned to Bailey Jingwei, but the man was deep in thought. Shang Yuan Yulin's heart sank, having a really bad feeling. Why, you didn't actually kill him, did you? Don't you want the soaring sword? If Gu Yifan doesn't get confirmation, then there's no deal. You won't get the sword and my body will be ruined. How could you just kill him? You could at least wait to get the divine sword. Prime Minister, you're a man of wisdom, so how? Silence, Shang Yuan Feiyan glared. Enough of your chattering, he's not dead. Oh, so he's alive. Then why are you so sensitive to the topic? Just let me see the brat and don't make it harder on me. I almost had a heart attack thinking I'd see a corpse. Igging, Shang Yuan Yulin unclenched, regarding them with renewed hope and waiting for an answer. Bailey Jingwei glanced over and nodded. Fine, I'll take you to the boy, though it's up to luck if you can squeeze even a word out of him. What does that mean? What did you do? Did you beat him to an inch of his life and now he can't even speak? Shang Yuan Yulin cried out, seeing their eyes had him trembling in fear. These savages won't spare even a child, how brutal, not like Shang Yuan Yulin was any better. At the very least, he would not start tormenting women and children. He was the young master of a renowned clan and had to act like it, knowing how far to take his cruelty. But these men, Shang Yuan Feiyan snapped at him. What's with that look? Are you thinking we did this to him? You call a monster like that a child? That's, this way, young master Shang Yuan. Bailey Jingwei interrupted, standing up and leading the way with the sword kings by his side. Shang Yuan Yulin scratched his head as he went along. The four passed through many places before arriving at a rock garden. Shang Yuan Feiyan made a sign and the space warped to reveal a dark hole. The four went down the dark abyss, then lights came to life. As they descended, 2 rows of Soul Harmony and Genesis stage guards welcomed them, standing there like statues, 50 in total. Their auras had Shang Yuan Yulin scared silly. Flying Cloud Manor's secret jail is under such a tight guard, yet all this secret place had locked up was none other than a child. This went to show just how wary Bailey Jingwei and the Sword Kings were of him, or maybe Gu Yifan. The four reached the end, but it was beyond the gloomy and damp hell Shang Yuan Yulin pictured. Instead, he saw silk and lights, a carved table and a granite chair, quite fancy. The bed in particular caught eyes with its carved and intricate jade supports buffed to a shine. You call this a jail cell? More like a king's chambers. Shang Yuan Feiyan patted his shoulder and pointed at the pale and resting child on the bed. Here's the brat you wanted to see. Does it look like I touched him? He's Gu Yifan's son, Shang Yuan Yulin cheered. He's still alive, young Sanzi. In the flying cloud city, in a dark corner bordering the manor, a sitting shadow made signs as it cried out. He slipped into Flying Cloud City, right behind Shang Yuan Yulin, and lay in ambush. Out of anyone's perception, the swarming maggots in Shang Yuan Yulin's belly withdrew to reveal a scarlet image of an infant. The idea behind dumping so many bloodworms into Shang Yuan Yulin was not to threaten him into submission. He had other ways to do that. The bloodworms worked to those below the ethereal stage since it tortured one's body, but it hardly posed a threat to a cultivator's soul. The other would just have to take the consequence of ruining his body, and you had no way of using him after. Zhuo Fan stuffed him with bloodworms to hide the blood infant's scent. Zhuo Fan had him knocked unconscious to blind him of the process and just what else was hidden in there. Blood infant was one, bloodworms were another, while also sealing the guy's senses. So when Shang Yuan Feiyan came to check, he'd only see the bloodworms, unaware of the blood infant lurking beneath. It was the perfect way to get Shang Yuan Yulin to help him find young Sanzi. All of it was set up to find young Sanzi as soon as possible. Any rescue attempt could only start when the target's location was confirmed. Zhuo Fan's brow shook, seeing through blood infant's eyes the frail child behind the silk covers. His fists clenched, his heart shuddered in pain, but calm soon returned. It was not the time for action, but patience. Shangyuan Yulin approached Gu Santong's side and checked his vitals. He turned to Shangyuan Feiyan in shock. How is he? He's weakened by severe blood loss. Shangyuan Feiyan rolled his eyes. Shangyuan Yulin checked again and noticed Gu Santong's damaged arm. Even with the bandages to staunch the bleeding, blood was seeping still, following the arm and dripping into a bowl. Startled, Shangyuan Yulin asked, "Are you letting out blood?" "Why? Bullshit." Shangyuan Feiyan cursed, "I'm no saint, but never this vile as to bleed out a child. I never once tortured him and even used my personal training room to heal him. And you're asking if I bled him? This is your personal room." "What else, a prison?" Shangyuan Yulin huffed and glared at him, turning to Gu Santong. "The kid is weird. I planned on using him to threaten that Gu guy after my blade hurt him, so I had my alchemists heal him. But the odd thing is that no medicine can halt the bleeding. That's why I was hesitating about letting you see him. While not dead, he's not long for this world. It's unclear if he can get us the sword as he is." Shangyuan Yulin's brow shook. So that's what all that stalling was about. The brat is hanging by a thread. He might not even live past a fortnight to see the exchange. Gu Yifan will never go with the damn thing if he knew, and will throw his lot with Shangyuan clan, raising a family but without his son. Zhuo Fan was overwhelmed at the truth about his condition, worried and flustered. "Young Sanzi can't heal, W.I." Jingwei turned to the others with a shake of his head. "No change. His wound didn't mend at all and his blood kept flowing. He'll soon die like this." Sword King Feiyan, "You really went all out back then." "How's it my fault?" Shangyuan Feiyan sighed. "I've just been wounded myself and the rage made it hard to control my power. But I didn't try to kill him either, trying to heal him afterward. How was I to know he's weird? Any other guy would be on their feet right about now. But look at him, he's only getting worse." Shangyuan Feiyan was perplexed at this outcome. Bailey Jingwei shook his head and smiled. "Ha ha ha, never mind. What's done is done. The issue now is Gu Yifan wanting his son's response for the deal. How is he going to reply like this? Maybe, young Master Shangyuan, will you give it a try? Maybe a father's love is so great that it may rouse the son." Bailey Jingwei chuckled. "I guess I'll give it a go." Shangyuan Yulin had no hesitation, not when this involved his future. He had to get an answer out of the brat one way or another. The other option would be Gu Yifan thinking his son was gone and the deal was off, and so was his body. His cultivation would drop, and the worst part was the punk was going to become Shangyuan clan's son-in-law. "Yanner, my dear Yanner, I'll never let that bastard lay a hand on you." Howling inside to psych himself up, Shangyuan Yulin went to Gu Santong and showed a more hideous grimace than when crying as he cooed, "Young Sanzi, wake up, your father sent me." "Come on, wake up." Young Sanzi was as still as a corpse, blood dripping down his arm. Shangyuan Yulin was panicking, sweat trickling down forehead. Zhuo Fan's brow shook. He was in the dark about young Sanzi's critical condition and had to wait until he saved the child before addressing it. But from how things looked, his life was on the line. Zhuo Fan gnashed his teeth and his fists tensed, only to slump back in helplessness. "Goddamn brat, be a good sport and wake the hell up. Tell me the signal you share with your old man before I get serious." Since the soft approach was a bust, Shangyuan Yulin flung his finger in Gu Santong's face and cussed. "I don't give a rat's ass about your rotten dad or you dying, but my life's on the line here. If you and your old man are going to risk my life, then, brat, see how I'll squeeze the last drops of your miserable life." Awkward young Sanzi lay there as if he had left this world, calmly resting without a twitch. Shangyuan Yulin winced and dismay struck his heart. Here he was thinking the biggest problem was Bailey Jingwei and the other two making it harder on him, only to find out that it was this snot-nosed antique of a brat that wouldn't play ball. If this brat doesn't wake up, everyone here will lose, the great young master Shangyuan Yulin in particular. What did he do to suffer so? Each time the factions clashed, it was always flying Cloud Manor and Gu Yifan, not Shangyuan clan and the manor. Well, he wasn't completely unrelated since last time he was with the Shangyuan clan, but he was totally tangential with Gu Yifan. Why does this punk and Bailey Jingwei's deal have to drag me down as well? Their ruined deal had nothing to do with him. I sure didn't botch it. It's this Gu brat who won't wake up. And the one at fault for that was Shangyuan Feiyan for being so cruel. None of this was his fault. He was innocent. Why then does your ruined deal end with me losing the most? Why am I the one to always take the fall? Shangyuan Yulin's heart was filled with complaints after complaints, having a worse fate than anyone in the world. While others might die out of the blue, he was worked to the bone by both sides, and what did he get? Suffering and death. And for what? Heavens above, why the cold shoulder? Why the cruel fate? Shangyuan Yulin's heart was bleeding, finding the world's misfortune dumped on his wee shoulders. Bailey Jingwei mocked him. "Young Master Yulin, I thought Gu Yifan sent you to give a message to his son. Do so, and maybe the strong bond between a father and his son will bring about the signal, maybe even wake him up." Give it a go, ha ha ha, shaking all over. Shangyun Yulin turned solemn and nodded with hope. Fine, anything's better than dying. He lay next to young Sanzi on the bed, whispering sweet nothings. Young Sanzi, your dad asked me to tell you about your agreement. Do you remember, whenever you're in danger, I'll always come save you. A gentleman can't forget his promise. Is that what a father tells his son? Why does it feel like a talk of equals? Shangyun Feiyan was puzzled. Bailey Jingwei was the same, but his mind was working on a solution. Then a faint whisper resounded. A gentleman never forgets his promise. Ha ha ha. Startled, the men looked to find the weak Gu Santong open his eyes and let out a faint laughter. He actually woke up. What's up with that signal anyway? Shangyun Feiyan shouted in astonishment. Bailey Jingwei chuckled and shook his head. These two are a pair of oddballs. I heard that some fathers and sons see each other as equals, ignoring outdated traditions. This must be the case as well. A gentleman's promise, ha ha ha. The others nodded, but Shangyun Yulin was not one to give a flying hoot about how much of a weirdo the Gu members were. He only wanted the deal to take place so he could keep his own skin, quite literally. Shangyun Yulin perked up. Brat, it's damn time you wake up. Hurry up and tell me your answer to the signal. I'll be off telling him the minute you do. Degenerate demon, why the hell would I tell it to you? Gu Santong's angelic face took on a savage smile. Pale as he was, he nevertheless succeeded in getting across the dripping disdain and scorn he had for Shangyun Yulin, cutting the man deep. For God's sake, even the Gu brat is mocking me. How is that normal? Crunching his teeth, Shangyun Yulin clenched and spat. Screw you, brat. Hurry up and give me the signal like a good kid so your dad can give the sword for your petty life. I win, you win, everybody wins. Cross me and I'll be sure to make both your lives a living hell. Degenerate demon, why the hell would I tell it to you? Gu Santong rolled his eyes. SSS Shangyun Yulin was fuming now. Brat, didn't I just say this is for your own sake? Staying here any longer will only get you killed. Your dad just has to give the sword and only then you'll survive. Talk, what's the signal? Degenerate demon, why the hell would I tell it to you? Screw you, why can't a rotten kid fricking understand reason? Shangyun Yulin was on the verge of having a meltdown as he held his head. His knees softened and kneeled at Gu Santong's side, pleading, Child, I'm here to help your father get you back. I've said my signal, so can't you do the same? We're on the same side. Give me your reply and everyone will be happy. Gu Santong gave him a long look, then sported a wicked smile. Degenerate demon, why the hell would I tell it to you? Shangyun Yulin's face twitched hard, his body shook, and his mouth bled. Turned out that Gu Santong's repeated onslaught had popped a vein in him. Young Master Yulin, pardon the interruption. Bailey Jingwei intervened. Is it possible that the reply is degenerate demon? Why the hell would I tell it to you? Shangyun Yulin's eyes blanked out, dumbstruck. Then he turned to Gu Santong's cute and mocking smile. The wounded brat couldn't be more obvious in his scorn. I already told you the signal, but who was the deaf one here? Shangyun Yulin's face twitched, his heart cracking like glass, tears seeping from the seams. These two are toying with me. They're getting their kicks until I die. Gu Yifan and his son sure know how to have fun. It's such a weird signal that it makes no damn sense. Shangyun Feiyan shook his head at the twitching, crushed, and seething Shangyun Yulin. Bailey Jingwei was just as clueless, so he just shook away the thoughts. It's how oddities are, or maybe it's just a way to obfuscate others from randomly guessing the signal. There's no point reading into it. At least we now know his response and can make the deal. Young Master Shangyun, you should be going. Weren't you on the clock? Bailey Jingwei smiled at the depressed Shangyun Yulin with the intention of kicking him out. Shangyun Yulin got his meaning of sealing the deal fast, so he stood up and bowed to them. Then I shall go to Gu Yifan with the reply. I shall be the first to congratulate Prime Minister getting the soaring sword from the punk. Why, thank you, young master. Bailey Jingwei smiled, as did the other two. While this guy had lost all his value, he was still smooth. Such flattery was neither forced nor overblown, said just right to make others feel good. Maybe he's still of some use after all, ha ha ha. With that done, they all went out of the cave, giving no attention to the weakened Gu Santong on the bed. Gu Santong eyed them and smiled. He let out a breath and closed his eyes, though muttering, Dad's coming to save me, ha ha ha. But did he get what I meant? Thumped Bailey Jingwei, and the two sword kings led Shangyun Yulin outside, being nice and friendly with him, like he was a real guest of honor. He was cautious as he walked, the rows of powerful guards giving him a bad feeling every time their aura flared. Staying just one extra second in this accursed place felt as if his life would be over. The peculiar thing was, the closer he was to the exit, the more pronounced it was. Shangyun Yulin shivered out of nowhere and halted. They had only reached half one of the tunnel and still had a way to go. Shangyun Feiyan paused, giving him an odd look. What is it? Why did you stop? Shangyun Yulin just stood there, frozen in panic with horror in his eyes. He did all he could to move his jaw, but it felt he had lost control. Shangyun Feiyan scanned him since he was acting even weirder. What's he playing at? Shangyun Yulin gave them some hopeful looks, trying to convey something impossible in a gloomy place such as this, and the others walked over. Just as Shangyun Yulin was feeling terror, 100 miles away, in a dark corner outside the manor, someone was using those same eyes as he waited for the target to approach. Squinting, Zhuo Fan was like a patient hunter on the prowl. He made a sign to nail Shangyun Yulin on the spot, while using the blood infant's eyes to see Shangyun Yulin taking slow steps towards him. The closer it got, the colder his gaze was. Boom! The instant Shangyun Feiyan reached Shangyun Yulin, Zhuo Fan's hands shifted. Shangyun Feiyan's senses flared with grave danger coming from within Shangyun Yulin, something he hadn't felt in ages. Though sensing did not equal reacting, Shangyun Yulin's sudden explosion as a soul harmony expert swept everything in its path, most of it focused on Shangyun Feiyan in front. Though a peak Genesis stage expert was far from defenseless, as one of the very best in this world, it would bring about endless disgrace from being even hurt by a soul harmony stage self-destruction. On the instant the explosion was triggered, Shangyun Feiyan's strong Yuan Qi was unleashed to shield him from the blast and leave him untouched. It did not go as well for the guards, though. Sure, they copied him to resist the blast, but the worst off among them were the soul harmony stage guards. In a narrow place like this, with no place to hide, they could only rely on their Yuan Qi. Survival and death came to one simple fact: whether they were just a bit stronger than the suicide bomber or weaker. Some would come out with heavy injuries while some never got up again. In but a blink of the 50 guards in the tunnel, a dozen fell victims, and that was ignoring the many others who were now too weak to fight. It went to show just how devastating a blowout of a soul harmony stage cultivator could be. It had to be, or no one would be doing it, but this was just the start. As everyone rejoiced the worst had passed, black thunder flames shot from the center of the blast. It was Zhuo Fan's third trump card he stashed in Shangyun Yulin, the apocalyptic thunderflame. Not even the likes of Sword King Feiyan saw this one coming. It was common knowledge that a self-detonation used one's Yuan Qi, something a Genesis stage expert had to spare just based on the difference in stages. But when the black thunderflame was included, one with the power of total destruction, it was fundamentally a universal killer, all ending up suffering the same miserable fate until its power ran out. Like a claw from hell, the black thunderflame shot like lightning in all directions. Anything it touched, be it flesh or hard bedrock, all burned, wiped out of existence. The Genesis stage guards hardly registered when the black thunderflame touched their Yuan Qi shields and only heard as it sizzled and was eaten away. The flames then crept on them, swallowing each one as it devoured. It was so deadly, there was no cry released as their souls got submerged in this terrifying black thunderflame. And so, the rest of the guards, 30 plus in number, all met their end in some unknown tunnel. Even the two Sword Kings were panicking around such deadly force. The worst off was Shangyun Feiyan, who was closest, now surrounded by this dark burning killer. His only saving grace was the strong Yuan Qi that kept the flames at bay, away from his body. Though this was not meant to last, he felt as his Yuan Qi was sapped every moment around this thunderflame. He had to leave at once. The crackling of the flames reached their ears, adding to the fear this black fire incited even in the likes of a Sword King. Shangyun Feiyan was not alone in this peril, with Bailey Jingwei and Dancing Shen being in danger as well. Bailey Jingwei was only in the ethereal stage and could not muster a token of resistance against the hell's beckoning. It was all thanks to Dancing Shen for surviving as he used his Yuan Qi to protect them both. Judging by the tense brow and shocked eyes, it was not easy at all. He was also fearful of this strange black fire. That boy's eerie flame has grown to such an extent already. The more I feel it, the more terrible it becomes. Dancing Shen's heart tensed as he watched the ravenous black flames. It felt like just yesterday's Zhuo Fan used just a finger-sized dark flame in the double dragon gathering to harm Yi Lin, despite him being under exalted High Ran's protection. This earned his title as best disciple in Western lands. That tiny flame now became a sea of fire, swallowing anything in its path. The boy has become terrifying in just a few years. Dancing Shen took a deep breath and sighed. Brother Dan, we can't stop this strange black flame even as it eats it away. It won't do us any good if we just stay here in this tight place. Looking from the ever-expanding Black Sea, Shangyun Feiyan turned a nervous glance to Dancing Shen. The man shouted, "All right." He pointed 2 fingers at the sky and a soaring sword of energy shot out in a loud boom, letting the sun cast light in this dark place while also shedding some light on the demonic black thunderflame. Whoosh. Looking at the clear sky with a stray cloud here and there, Dancing Shen hoisted Bailey Jingwei on his shoulder and flew away from the black flame. As the flames latched on his Yuan Qi shield and crept all over it, Dancing Shen shook once and sent his shield away from himself, letting the flames chip away at it from a safe distance, disappearing once their meal was finished. Wu Shangyun Feiyun and a few strong Genesis stage guards arrived, shedding the terrifying flames in the same manner Danking Shen did. They were at last out of danger and could breathe easier. These mighty and respected Genesis stage experts had just escaped a brush with death, something that hardly happened to them. The more they watched the thunder flames swallow the manor, the deeper their fear ran. What the hell is this? Why is it so horrible? Of the 50 or so guards in the tunnel, only 5 escaped. It was testament to the warranted fear they had for the black thunder flame and of its destruction. The flames kept spreading, eating and destroying all of the manor, and they were powerless to stop it. Shangyun Feiyun stood there stunned, his face grave from the dangerous experience. It was a first for him to see his men die out without even making a sound. It echoed in him the same amount of powerlessness he saw in them. There was a limit to what a man could do, a saying he would not soon forget. "Prime Minister Brother Dan, what is this thing? Do any of you know?" Shangyun Feiyun flew over to them and spoke with no little shock in his voice. "It's just a flame, but Yuan Qi can't stop it nor break it. Only by letting it consume everything will it make it stop. The only reason we're still here talking is because we had the Yuan Qi to keep it at bay. Any stronger and even this sword king would have fallen." "This is absurd," Bailey Jingwei and Danking Shen nodded gravely. Danking Shen kept the knowledge about it and Zhuo Fan to himself, while Bailey Jingwei grimaced. "It's not a question of what but how strong. With this black flame, nothing in the world can stop it. We've only survived it because its power has a limit. Yet even so, it still managed to threaten the likes of a sword king. Sword kings, think for a second. We've been hard-pressed to use Yuan Qi and keep the flames away, but if just one mote touched us, we'd be dead." Shangyun Feiyun shook and Danking Shen's voice cracked in shock. "The black flame needs but a touch and nothing will remain of us." Bailey Jingwei sighed. "Such a deadly power is hard for even a sword king to escape." "Then what about Patriarch? This is our first time seeing such a thing, but what if there'll be more of it, then?" Bailey Jingwei trailed off, but Shangyun Feiyun understood his worry loud and clear. "There just has to be more of this thing, and it could drive fear even into invincible sword. The question is, where did this outrageous thing come from?" Shangyun Feiyun frowned, while Bailey Jingwei was lost in worries. "In any case, Shangyun Yulin's detonation has something to do with the Shangyun clan." Bailey Jingwei spoke coldly. Shangyun Feiyun cursed. "Those bastards must be behind it. I don't know where they got this dangerous thing, but they stuffed it in the brat and got him to explode. It was clearly aimed at us. I was right to be wary of the detonation, even if its blast was meager. Any carelessness from my part and the flame would have eaten me alive. Damn you, Shangyun Feiksheng, and your cruelty." Shangyun Feiyun had instantly dumped all the blame behind this devious and savage attack on his brother. But Bailey Jingwei frowned. Would such a kind and upright clan head resort to something so vile? Let's not forget that the mind behind everything is still Gu. Boom, a sudden distant explosion cut off his words. The trio jerked and looked over in its direction. From the manor's east side, a surge of power came, followed by a most familiar sword energy, Shangyun clan's soaring sword art. Shangyun Feiyun gnashed his teeth. "Prime Minister Bailey, see that? They just took an attempt on our lives. They had Shangyun Yulin blow up in our faces while the main force was charging in. They want to take my head in case I escaped alive. Humph, there's no way they'll get rid of me that easily." Shangyun Feiyun shot towards the scene. The rest looked at the spreading sea of black and went after him. It was better to fight with the Sword King than stay here powerless. "Sword King Feiyun, wait," Bailey Jingwei cried, but Shangyun Feiyun's anger deafened him to anything but his target. Bailey Jingwei squinted and looked back at the flames. He sighed and gave Danking Shen a look, flying together after Shangyun Feiyun. All the excitement and suddenness had made them blind to the on and off red infant going deeper into the flames and using them for cover. It went through the tunnel filled with flames and arrived to where the weakened Gu Santong rested. "Young Sanzi," Gu Santong shook at the familiar voice and smiled. "Dad, you're here." "Of course I am. I've come to get you out." The blood infant turned into a pitch-black sword floating under Gu Santong. It then took the child and disappeared without a trace. Shangyun Feiksheng had come with his 3 venerables and the Genesis stage experts to cause a scene in an area of the manor. They burned and killed without stopping, as no guard could match the power of the 3 venerables, not when they could hold back a sword king. What was more, there were few guards around, far weaker than the carefully picked Shangyun experts. Boom, a string of sword energies were unleashed, wreaking havoc to anything that moved. As lavish buildings fell around him, Shangyun Feiyun hovered in the air and heard hundreds of people coming over. "Damn it, the guards are mobilizing here. Did the brat do it? I don't know if Shangyun Feiyun and the rest are with them. It will make getting out with just 10 men hard. It may even require to leave some behind." Shangyun Feixiang, you rotten relic, you sent me a suicide bomber and almost cost me my life. I'll make sure you'll never walking out of here alive, Shangyun Feiyan roared as he stormed over. Shangyun Feixiang saw Shangyun Feiyan coming at him like a storm, with Danking Shen and Bailey Jingwei not far behind. He ordered everyone fall back. They took the bait. The rest of the Shangyun clansmen, enjoying senseless violence, shot off at once, leaving this place a broken pile of junk and destruction. Feixiang was gone with his team. It only worked to drive his fury ever higher, cursing at their fading figures. Damn lily-livered fossil, seeing me here got you shaking in your boots, you're nothing. Since you can't beat me, you resort to living bombs. Even an old coot like you has fallen so low. But if you're to send a human bomb, you could at least go all the way and send a Genesis stage expert. What was the point of a fresh soul harmony punk? And you call yourselves heroes. If you're dirtying your hands, go all the way, not act like the cowards and useless bag of bones you are. What a Shangyun clan head you turned out to be. Shangyun Feiyan's mouth was an endless well of curses born out of the hatred and rage from the earlier blast he had been under. He did not only aim for Shangyun Feixiang's shamelessness, but also Shangyun Yulin's weakness, unable to harm him at all. The soul of Shangyun Yulin would have fallen into depression if he heard it from whatever hell he was in. Why me? I'm just the messenger. How did I even die? He just went out with a bang without even knowing. The thunder flame then consumed his soul, robbing him of any chance of survival. One could say he was a poor, unfortunate soul. PN, any Little Mermaid fans out there, never knowing what got him even after death. But the moment he decided to be Zhuo Fan's messenger was the second his fate as martyr was set in stone, taking one for the noble cause of this demonic emperor's grand rescue plan. Zhuo Fan had no intention to send any messages, only to send him to his death. That stuff with deals and exchanges was only an excuse. Sword King Feiyan, save your breath, they never were after you, you're cursing the wrong tree. Whoosh Danking Shen and Bailey Jingwei arrived, and the latter shook his head seeing the Sword King consumed by rage. A man of status he is, but only a martial practitioner at heart, unable to escape his crude disposition. Shangyun Feiyan shook and asked, "What's that, Prime Minister?" "They didn't want me dead. What about that detonation and then that sudden attack? I have lost the soaring sword, so their only reason to come here is to go after my life, not to mention the punk blew up right next to me. If that isn't already obvious, what is? How is that not an attempt on my life? Ha ha ha, Sword King Feiyan, everyone knows how amazing you are." Bailey Jingwei shook his head. If they were after your head, they'd come up with a far more intricate plan and not some hasty idea. Just look at yourself, there's not a hair out of place. That's being cautious, blocking the black flame in time. The flame is deadly, but your instincts are much honed as a Sword King than any other Genesis stage expert. Not even a Soul Harmony Kid's detonation can escape your senses. It's easy to tell from the sudden surge that a detonation was coming as well. The only way the ambush would have worked was if they used one in the same stage. Bailey Jingwei gave a wry smile. "Sword King, you need to think about it. What kind of an ambush points to using a tactic that guarantees not to take the target down?" Shangyun Feiyan shook and exclaimed, "Prime Minister, you mean? They just wanted us to think it was a temporary attempt on your life." Bailey Jingwei had a creepy smile on his face. Shangyun Feiyan's heart jumped in shock. "Temporary?" "Yes." Bailey Jingwei laughed. "For Sword King to understand it better, I invite you to go back to the secret room together, ha ha ha." Bailey Jingwei flew with Danking Shen as his loyal guard. Shangyun Feiyan was quick to follow. Back at the tunnel of the Sea of Black Flames, only a few motes remained here and there. Shangyun Feiyan waved his sleeve and sent the still burning rocks in the tunnel away. This cleared the way for the trio. The tunnel was just as narrow, just that its length was now cut in half, making it easy for them to reach the room. Danking Shen and Shangyun Feiyan gasped to see the bed empty. Sensing the cold sheets, they knew the child was long gone. Shangyun Feiyan cried out, "Where is he? When did he leave?" "Rescued while the attacking Shangyun clan drew our attention." Bailey Jingwei analyzed. Shangyun Feiyan shuddered and gasped, "Prime Minister, you knew from the very start." Bailey Jingwei's eyes shone and smirked. "Our opponent wasn't the Shangyun clan, but Gu Yifan." Shangyun Feiyan cried out, "Him? How did he do it? Didn't we agree on an exchange? Why?" "We did agree, but do you trust ourselves to let the father and son go free after we got the soaring sword?" Bailey Jingwei shook his head. "If I don't trust the deal, then you can be sure Gu Yifan won't either. The soaring sword is his leverage. Once removed, nothing can stop us from killing him. How far do you think a radiant stage father can run with his injured son? It makes sense he'd need Shangyun clan's cover. But would they help him without the soaring sword? From the start, he never planned on following through on the deal, only after taking our bargaining chip." Bailey Jingwei looked around the empty room and chuckled. I have yet to figure out how he slipped in and succeeded in taking his son through the chaos, but the minute Shangyuan Yulin demanded to see the child, I knew he planned a rescue. The rest were a series of plans. Shangyuan Yulin's detonation, then the Black Flame's invasion of the tunnel, all a show of strength to unbalance our state of mind. Anxiety causes men to be irrational and fall for his trap. That's why I said, Sword King Feiyan, that the attempt on you was temporary. If you had calmed down and discovered the child was missing, you'd see the target wasn't you to begin with. Shangyuan Feiyan's brow shook, looking tense at Bailey Jingwei and nodding. Everything makes sense now. Next came Shangyuan Feixiang, leaving as quickly as they attacked to lure us away. This was all to enrage and strike at your name, so Sword King Feiyan would believe this was an attempt on yourself, so you'd strike in anger and away from here. Then there's the Black Flame covering the tunnel. With the guards fearful of it, the only sensible thing for them was to follow you. Bailey Jingwei smiled as he unraveled the mystery. This gave him the opening to slip in when no one was around and save the child. He had Shangyuan Yulin deliver a message, so he'd ingrain in our minds that we'd make the exchange in 2 weeks, and anything that happened within this time was out of his hands. This led to us immediately believing it to be the Shangyuan clan behind Shangyuan Yulin's detonation, while excluding him as being part of the equation. Ha ha ha, Gu Yifan makes us feel a swirl of emotions all at the same time. Truly amazing how his schemes are so meticulous. I've traveled the 5 lands for years, but not once met with such a thorny opponent. Just thinking about holding his head fills me with a sense of achievement, Bailey Jingwei cackled. Shangyuan Feiyan nodded, feeling his back soaked. He's fast, precise, and deadly, stooping to any low. A more twisted mind on this earth is hard to come by. Then there's the fact he had the Shangyuan clan's 10 experts work with him to get his son, with no casualties. At least he's not part of the Shangyuan clan, or it would have turned dire. This is the core of every manipulator, not personal strength, but turning every pawn around him into a deadly weapon. The worst danger Central Area's Sword Star Empire can have right now is if by some chance the 4 lands place value on Gu Yifan. Bailey Jingwei's eyes flashed with murder as he spoke with resolve. We have to get rid of him now once and for all. Shangyuan Feiyan stared at his hateful face and nodded. He is a very real danger. But has Prime Minister ever thought of winning him? Not even once. Bailey Jingwei shook his head. I have said once that I don't like anyone like me. I alone am enough to govern the Central Area. I certainly don't need a second one, and certainly not Gu Yifan. Danking Shen played the silent observer. He had never seen Bailey Jingwei so agitated. He feels his authority being questioned, his position. With the entire string of events clinically presented to him, it dawned on Shangyuan Feiyan what it all represented. Though like in anything, doubt still remained. Prime Minister, you knew this was going to happen, so why didn't you stop us from falling into his trap? Sword King Feiyan, you're underestimating Gu Yifan. Bailey Jingwei smiled. Ever since my previous interaction with him, it should be obvious just how meticulous he is. If we were to set up a counter for him, he'd see it at a glance, making the endeavor pointless. I want not just the sword, but his life as well. Now that such a cunning devil finally walked into our domain, I would shame his kind intentions and heaven's gift letting this chance slip, now won't I? Humph, Shangyuan Feiyan nodded after a pause. Prime Minister is right. You can't bring a small hook to catch such a big fish. He's unlike that simple-minded Shangyuan Feixiang. But does this mean Prime Minister knows where he's going after saving the brat? Brother Feiyan, don't you find the question redundant? Just look at Prime Minister brimming with confidence, ha ha ha. Danking Shen smiled and turned to Bailey Jingwei. I dare venture a guess that Prime Minister Bailey already has everything under his control. Bailey Jingwei couldn't stop himself from laughing. Dragon-cleaving Sword King is truly a close friend. Yes, I have everything ready. Then where is he? Shangyuan Feiyan asked eagerly. Bailey Jingwei waved his hand, his eyes shining as he spoke. Humph, the punk's key to his joint tactics was speed. From the moment Shangyuan Yulin detonated to Shangyuan Yulin's strike, they all happened at perfect timing and speed. It was enough for just one aspect to be offbeat by one step, and it would have ended in disaster. Speed also dictates the rushed actions he took, resorting to haste and leaving many oversights unattended. This joint tactics demanded that of him, to not be as cautious. Now all he's doing is being on the run as far away as possible, with little attention to anything else. Therein lies our success in beating him and outdoing him with even more speed. Bailey Jingwei had a prideful smirk on his face as he took out a vial. Opening it, he shook it and something green landed in his palm, finger-sized and wiggling. First-level spiritual beast, lovesick larva. Shangyuan Feiyan gasped and eagerly awaited Bailey Jingwei's answer. The Prime Minister nodded with a smile. Lovesick larva, yes. The red bean trees in the south grow by spring they yield in heaps above. Slash, I hope you pluck in plenty soon. Slash, because it is the gift of love. It yearns for those beans, and its lack of spiritual energy only classify it as a simple insect, but there's one thing it excels at that dwarfs other spiritual beast. It's what earns its place among them. Lovesickness by Wang Wei, Tang Dynasty, the pair of larvae, even leagues apart, all they'd yearned for is to be together again to show his lovesickness. Danking Shen sighed. Between the heaven and earth nodded. That's exactly right, dragon-cleaving sword king. The lovesick larvae come in pairs, intertwined always until the very moment of death and ever loyal in love. Even if worlds apart, the two insects will eventually find each other again. That's why happy couples and sweethearts give each other one to proclaim their undying love. Humph, the larvae are inseparable, but their owner, always saying goodbye in love and hate, so how many are there that their love lasts until the end? Aren't men worse than bugs? Ha ha ha. Shangyu and Fei Yan mocked. Bailey Jingwei nodded. People are far more complex than this simple pair of insects. Most often than not, these larvae aren't used to proclaim undying love or chase skirts, but in a much more practical way. Separate the two, with the male placed on oneself while the female crushed to be refined into the thousand-legged scent. Though named scent, it is odorless and colorless. Not even Genesis stage expert can find it. Only this male larva always crawls towards her direction undeterred. That's what makes it the best tracking method. Does that mean Prime Minister smeared the thousand-legged scent on the brat when? Shangyu and Fei Yan lit up at the promising idea. Bailey Jingwei smiled. Of course, right when I was checking his pulse. Gu Yifan must have no idea I've long since planted the perfect bait for him. Though it won't change even if he does realize. His plan is based on speed and has no time to check for details. That is unless he threw the brat away, but then it would mean all his work would go to waste. So he'll bet that I did not take precautions, but you can see that he clearly lost, ha ha ha. Bailey Jingwei laughed and Shangyu and Fei Yan joined him. Danking Shen just watched them with a shake of his head, his saddened eyes landing on the lovesick larva. The world had such devoted and love-struck beings, only to end up being a tool for humans and their twisted plans. The heavens are so cruel, following with pain after every success. Will the upright and righteous path of the world ever prevail in winning over the demons plaguing our hearts? Sword King Fei Yan, we now have his direction. We'll give chase and grab the divine sword from his stiff, cold hands. In minutes, the lovesick larva found the scent of his better half, struggling to reach her. Nothing could dissuade it from reaching her, not the impossible journey nor the slow crawl. Its efforts brought a smile to Bailey Jingwei's face, his eyes shining with cruelty as he signaled for Sword King Fei Yan to go on a hunt. Danking Shen took a deep breath, following them close. As the demonic sword took Gu Santong out of the manor, Zhuo Fan fled as well. He held Gu Santong close and ran like the wind, with the demonic sword slipping back in his body. Per Bailey Jingwei's speculation, Zhuo Fan was focused on speed and wanted to put as much distance as he could between them before taking young Sanzi somewhere safe to heal. Holding a Gu Santong that never once got a scratch, now hanging by a thread, plagued Zhuo Fan's mind. Whoosh, Zhuo Fan rushed through the air, not stopping for anything. This hour of flight had taken him 1,000 miles off Flying Cloud City. With Shangyu and Yulin's detonation and Shangyu and Feixing's sudden attack, the chaos at the manor drew all the experts in Flying Cloud City over. This gave Zhuo Fan a clear path to get out with ease. Zhuo Fan's lure was not only for Shangyu and Fei Yan and Bailey Jingwei, but for all the guards in the city and manor. It thus made his extraction easier, just like he expected and as Bailey Jingwei foresaw. Zhuo Fan's eyes flashed, feeling in control. With the wind whipping around his face, Gu Santong awoke now and then to find himself in a warm and strong embrace and in safety. Looking at the familiar face, Gu Santong winced and felt forlorn for some reason, having never had to rely on his godfather until now, and tears flowed without stop. Dad, you came back for me. Of course I did. Who else would come save my son if not I? Zhuo Fan looked stern but smiled in comfort at seeing his missing godson these past days. Gu Santong's lips quivered as he apologized. Dad, I'm sorry. Why would you be? You did nothing wrong. I've been so stubborn in Father's perfect plan. It's all on me. I rushed in and got Dad worried and endangered you to come save me. Gu Santong sobbed, unable to finish his thoughts. As his cheeks were streaked with tears, his heart was wrecked by regret. Zhuo Fan looked at him in silence, flying farther and farther away. Gu Santong cried for a long time, even as his first tears dried, with Zhuo Fan smiling. Young Sanzi. Ah, since you admit you're at fault, given the chance to do it again, would you still save the wench? Gu Santong shook and tensed as he got lost in thought. When he replied, he gave a weak nod. Yes, father. Oh, then why would you repeat the same mistake? Zhuo Fan flew as he looked at him with a flat look. Gu Santong sighed. Because I want Auntie to be safe. Then why do you say it's your fault? I meant for making you worried and risking yourself for me. But I couldn't watch Auntie, who was always nice to me, be hurt. That's why. I'd save Auntie again if I could, but I don't want Father to be in danger because of me either. Gu Santong's fidgeting betrayed his nervousness. Zhuo Fan spoke calmly. Young Sanzi, then you shouldn't say sorry. Father, Gu Santong shook, looking stunned. Zhuo Fan's cold tone sounded angry to him. Then Zhuo Fan sighed and smiled. We've all been young and rash once. We've all made mistakes. Right and wrong are relative, not set in stone. As long as you think it's right, give it your all. Even if it's wrong, as long as it's worth it for you, do it if you are ready to face the consequences of your choice. A real man doesn't utter apologies lightly, or they would hold no value. A man needs to be liable, regardless of wrong or right. Since you saved the wench, you need to be responsible for what follows, including having me spare the effort to save you, even my life. No, Dad, I never wanted you. Zhuo Fan's words sounded like his will, and Gu Santong was only getting frightened as he cried. Zhuo Fan chuckled. Think thrice before acting, young Sanzi. You're not the same as before. Your every move has ramifications. Since you couldn't let the wench get hurt, does that mean I could leave you be? I'm your dad. Gu Santong's lip trembled, overwhelmed by his love. This was a father, one who would accept him as he was in his entirety. Gu Santong experienced for the first time Zhuo Fan's endless love he had for his son, feeling this father reliable. It had always been the case of Zhuo Fan being the weaker one and needed his help, accepting every time because of the fondness of having a dad. Only now, when he was in trouble, he felt his father's arms protecting him. Zhuo Fan had become his everything, not just a mere godfather, but a true father, one such as he could always lean on. Also, is there anything a father and son can't talk about? If you wanted to save the girl, you could have just told me and I would have. Zhuo Fan continued, although my attention has been lapsing that day from always focusing on sealing the falls and never noticing your changes. It's my fault and I should be the one to apologize. Zhuo Fan sighed with guilt. Gu Santong's regret only grew at his words. No, it's all on me. I always thought Dad's attention was only on the whirlwind tunnel, ignoring everything else. All plans were coming to a head all at once and did not want to say anything, fearing you might yell at me. Zhuo Fan shook and regarded Gu Santong's gloomy face. My own son thinks I'm so cold and unreasonable. That might have been before. Young Sanzi, listen closely. All-encompassing love. We are family. What you like I'll make all efforts to like as well. Trust me from now on. Zhuo Fan was resolute as he stared at Gu Santong. Looking deep in his father's eyes, Gu Santong bobbed his head, finally showing his usually bright smile. Zhuo Fan smiled back in relief. As the father and son grew closer as family, a cackle from behind startled them. Ha ha ha, got you now, Gu Yifan. Try and escape this time. Zhuo Fan's eyes hardened and looked back with a sinking feeling. Those rotten bastards caught up too fast. Whoosh, 3 pretty trails were left in the sky as Shangyun Feiyun, Bailey Jingwei, and Danking Shen appeared. Though Danking Shen carried Bailey Jingwei since his speed was limited, the wisest man in the empire and 2 sword kings were hot on Zhuo Fan's tail. Their power slammed into him and made him gasp, his frown deepening. How did they get here so soon? It's like they knew our heading. Gu Santong cried out. Zhuo Fan stomped harder with Gu Santong in his arms. It's obvious they've done something to you so these dogs could sniff you out. I drew them. Gu Santong's eyes shook, feeling ashamed. Dad, forgive me. Young Sanzi, what did I say? A man shouldn't always apologize. Then Zhuo Fan smirked. Besides, it's all within my calculations. Truly, trust your dad. Whoosh, Zhuo Fan sped up, his eyes flashing with cold determination. It was not like sword kings were hot on his tail, but mere wild dogs. The odds were, hardly anyone in the whole central area actually got away from any of these 3 big shots. But Zhuo Fan was confident in his skills, going fast while holding his happy son. Shangyun Feiyun cussed, he just won't give up. Does he really think he can escape from the likes of us? Then again, it's not like we'll show mercy even if he stops, ha ha ha. Gu Yifan must be removed. Bailey Jingwei gave a vile snicker, looking at the larva in his hand crawling for Zhuo Fan, and mocked. His son has 1,000 leagues sent on him, and not even a teleportation array can throw us off. The more frantic he is in his run, the worse his already dying son will be. Let's see how he'll deal with that, ha ha ha. Prime Minister Bailey, you might find torturing him fun, but I'm done waiting. Shangyun Feiyun swiped his fingers at Zhuo Fan. Gu Yifan, hand over the soaring sword and I'll spare you, or else. Whoosh, a sword wave in the form of soaring sword shot for Zhuo Fan, its sharp edge making his spine tingle, like death was crawling up his back. He reacted by leaning out of the attack's direction. Whoosh, the sharp edge glanced by his cheek, leaving behind a trail of blood. It exploded in a distant mountain range, leveling everything for 100 miles. The shockwave came seconds later and staggered Zhuo Fan's pace as he faced it head-on in his run. What he saw before him was a thick cloud of dust, dyeing the sky yellow as it covered even the sun. To Zhuo Fan, it felt like the wall of dust was there to block him from moving forward. Zhuo Fan had no choice but to stop, his face grave. A Sword King's power sure is something. One strike was all that was needed to block him. His only choice now was to go all out. Squinting, Zhuo Fan twisted around and let the black thunderflame flash in his left eye while his right eye shone in golden halos, ready to stake it all. Shangyun Feiyan stopped 1,000 meters away with a sardonic smile. Why, Grandmaster Gu, tired of running, perhaps? When a fight's unavoidable, no amount of running will change things. Zhuo Fan smirked back, his one last hurrah before dying. Quite heroic, one might say. Shangyun Feiyan grinned. Fight, Grandmaster Gu, you all right there? Why would you fight me? Do you even have the strength? Ha ha ha. Regardless if I have or not, I won't just let you take me without a struggle. Zhuo Fan huffed and held Gu Yifan tighter. Besides, my name might even travel to every corner, talking about my honorable death fighting a Sword King. What's the difference from all others you killed, you ask? I, Gu Yifan, have become a 11th grade alchemist at such a young age, a heaven's favorite, one might say. I shall never go down without a few ripples. Ha ha ha, Shangyun Feiyan eyed him as his cocky words stabbed his ears. He turned to Bailey Jingwei and mocked. I say, Gu Yifan just doesn't know when to quit. Even in death he wants to be on top, remembered through the ages. Youngsters are filled with ambition, there's nothing odd about that. Between dying nameless like mowed grass and going down with dignity with their name spread throughout the world, anyone would always choose the latter. Bailey Jingwei smiled. Grandmaster Gu, you very much know I have a soft spot for talents. You more than qualify to be one, so give us the soaring sword and why not think about giving your service to the emperor? Bailey Jingwei sounded sincere, but all Zhuo Fan did was mock him for it. Prime Minister Bailey does like talents, but in my short year in the central area, I've not once heard of any notable, brilliant people in Prime Minister's service. Could it be that the wide and expansive central area has none? Or is it likelier that Prime Minister's wisdom outshines everyone else's? That doesn't sound right either. With Sir's virtuous nature, how can you do that? It's better to say that Sir had been at odds with them when Shangyun Feiyan hit a snicker while peeking over at Bailey Jingwei. Gu Yifan sure is a genius. He's like a god or something to figure it all out. Bailey Jingwei loved his talents, but to a point. He could employ all of them under his wing, but there was just one type that he abhorred the most, those like him, good in politics. He'd strike hard and fast, out of fear of being replaced. This empire was just not big enough for two prime ministers. Bailey Jingwei would have happily welcomed Gu Yifan into his fold, so long as he was but an outstanding alchemist and only that. But late events showed time and time again what a twisted and calculative mind he had, not unlike Bailey Jingwei. By bringing him to the empire, the prime minister's post might just slip from under him. Gu Yifan had to die here and now beyond any shadow of a doubt. Stealing the soaring sword had nothing to do with it, but just because Bailey Jingwei found him an eyesore. Grandmaster Gu has some good eyes, ha ha ha. Bailey Jingwei's face twitched. Since Grandmaster Gu insists on this action, I won't dissuade you any longer. While I understand you don't care about yourself, but what about the other life involved? Grandmaster Gu just has to give us the soaring sword and I promise your son's safety. Zhuo Fan turned to Gu Santong, seeing the determination in his eyes and chuckled, Prime Minister, there's no need to toy with me. My son is just like me and I'm sure you've already seen this. Rooting out the weeds isn't uncommon. None of you would be so willing to let your enemy's son live, now would you? Ha ha ha, Prime Minister should save his breath. The both of us will live or die together in this fight. Zhuo Fan used his belt to tie Gu Santong close to him, filled with the will to die. His son was no different. Shangyun Feiyan was touched by their determination. They were sure to become great in the future. A shame it will be cut short today. Since Grandmaster Gu can't see reason, I'll oblige. Lacking the appreciation a fellow warrior would have of another's valor, Bailey Jingwei signaled Shangyun Feiyan, send them off. Shangyun Feiyan nodded and swiped with his fingers, unleashing a terrible energy rumbling forward, giving the feeling the world might collapse. Zhuo Fan's brow shook, watching the fingers intently as sweat trickled down his brow. He wouldn't last 5 moves against Sword King Feiyan, but then again, he wasn't in it to win, but to survive. Therein lay the slim chance at life. He was now following the plan he made, but each step was accompanied by mortal danger. One slip and nothing would remain of him. He found the best solution was to get a mortal wound and then escape, since anyone would disregard a dying person. Waves of power came from those 2 fingers, shaking the world around them. Zhuo Fan's right eye flashed in golden halos, ready to act even as sweat poured from his brow. Shangyun Feiyan's sword had such power and speed that not even shift might get him out of the woods. The only hope of survival was to use it the instant the attack was released. Any later and life was forfeit. Any later and the enemy would notice and just switch directions, resulting in death. Life and death hung on that one tiny window. There was no room for errors. Zhuo Fan was under a lot of pressure because of it, as this was his first time facing a Sword King, the peak power of the mortal domain. The The soaked back attested to that. Whoosh, Shangyuan Feiyun moved his fingers in Zhuo Fan's direction and the sword was released. It was then Zhuo Fan's divine eye of the void activated. Just as the attack reached Zhuo Fan, he flickered and was gone. The sword struck the wall of dust behind, blowing it away. He dodged it. How? Shangyuan Feiyun exclaimed, but soon there was a ripple coming from his front. Zhuo Fan wasn't going for an escape, but to attack a sword king. All of them were shocked. How much nerve does this punk have? His keen senses made him aware of Zhuo Fan's location, and although shocked, Shangyuan Feiyun used his Yuan Qi again to form sword energy in his fingers even as Zhuo Fan was in the middle of appearing. Shangyuan Feiyun's second attack was ready just as he became visible and mocked Zhuo Fan. Humph, you have some guts to face me instead of running. You must really have a death wish. Thunderflame Void Annihilation. His right eye flashed in 2 golden halos while his right burned, unleashing the attack he had in store. The Thunderflame shot for Shangyuan Feiyun like a black pillar of death, right for his head. Shangyuan Feiyun shook from seeing the deadly Thunderflame again, and his heart jumped in fright. He was frantic in using a Yuan Qi shield, doing anything he could to keep that thing from touching him, all while his second sword struck Zhuo Fan. At such close range, Zhuo Fan had no chance of dodging or running. Not even his soul would survive this. This great and deadly power made Zhuo Fan's face burn and his scalp numb. It was now reality that had strayed from Zhuo Fan's flawless predictions. Shangyuan Feiyun, who had always been looking down on him so far, had been so scared he began to take the youth seriously. It was at the same time that he felt threatened from the core of his heart. With a muffled sound, the black thunderflame struck, but unlike sticking to the Yuan Qi shield as before, it went right through it like paper and straight for his flesh. Shangyuan Feiyun panicked in fear, overwhelmed by the power of the thunderflame going beyond his expectation. What Shangyuan Yulin had demonstrated through his detonation was the thunderflame's intrinsic power, not when it was used as a skill like now. As for the Thunderflame Void Annihilation, that was Zhuo Fan combining his 2 ultimate skills to break any kind of obstacle and letting the Thunderflame's deadly nature capitalize on its true power. What could a measly Yuan Qi shield amount to when it could cut through the Shangyuan clan's 12th grade array made with all their experts? With fear vivid in his look and with terror in his heart, Shangyuan Feiyun rushed to dodge this deadly move. This in turn affected his aim on the sword that was meant for Zhuo Fan, leading to it shooting someplace else and leveling another 50 miles area, turning into a dust storm. The destructive black thunderflame streaked past his shoulder and far beyond. Shangyuan Feiyun felt its vibrant and burning power as it passed, making his blood run cold. The amount of times the great best in eastern lands, now a sword king, felt such unfiltered terror from his incredibly close brush with death could be counted on one hand. It was far too soon to relax though, as sizzling jarred his ears. He whipped his head around and the view had his legs feeling like jelly. The deadly black flames were on his clothes and were eating their way to his body. Shangyuan Feiyun shook at once and used Yuan Qi to shake the clothing off, making the flames die out as the remnants of clothing burned out. Whoosh, then another sound entered his ears and watched as Zhuo Fan with young Sanzi in his arms appeared again in front. His left eye was filled with violent black flames while his right shone in 2 golden halos, planning to make a repeat of the previous move. But the horror had been too memorable for Shangyuan Feiyun the first time to allow it to happen again. Not even facing death felt so horrible. Shangyuan Feiyun saw Zhuo Fan appearing and jumped back with no delay, 10 kilometers in fact. When he finally sensed some semblance of safety, he eased a breath he didn't know he was holding, feeling drained as if from a fight with invincible sword. He gasped for breath, his feeble legs barely keeping him from falling. There was even a conspicuous change in color on Sword King Shangyuan's pants, quite obvious to any observer. Bailey Jingwei and Danking Shen had their jaws hanging. Come on, Sword King Feiyun. You're supposed to be a Sword King, so what are you doing looking so worn out after an exchange with a puny Radiant Stage cultivator? What a scandal. Your top is naked for having your clothes ruined and your lower half wet from being scared to death by a measly Radiant Stage alchemist. Bailey Jingwei's mouth twitched, anger clearly showing. Just as he was about to curse, he then understood the Thunderflame's fatal danger. So Prime Minister looked heavily at the panting Zhuo Fan. Gu Yifan wasn't just making wild boasting when he said he'd fight a Sword King. This kid is truly frightening. Danking Shen nodded. The Black Flame's power can kill a Sword King. If only he was a bit stronger than that attack. He stopped, hearing the snapping of Bailey Jingwei's knuckles and his heavy tone. There's no way he'll get any stronger. First I wanted to kill him because I wanted to, but now it's for the safety of the Empire. There can only be one invincible sword in this world. There's no room for a second dreaded existence. Danking Shen's brow shook, his eyes flashing. The boy's too outstanding. And then there's that black flame that can threaten a Sword King from as weak as a Radiant Stage. he may know will become the second invincible sword. Bailey Jingwei is sure to even disregard the soaring sword if it means killing him. Danking Shen held his beard deep in thought. Shangyun Feiyan was looking worse for wear. Then the anger exploded from him as he glared at Zhuo Fan with bloodthirst. I'll not stand this punk for drawing another breath after that humiliation. Shangyun Feiyan brought his fingers out and struck with another sword. He no longer looked casual, but focused like when fighting an equal, while keeping his senses sharp for any disturbance within a kilometer, just in case. Zhuo Fan sighed. I know I'm still too weak to deal with a Sword King. Any other Genesis stage cultivator would have burned alive by now. After attacking a Sword King, if the first time failed, the second time would never present itself, though it all fell within his parameters, thus taking the sensible option in bolting. Bailey Jingwei and Danking Shen did not follow, knowing Zhuo Fan was Shangyun Feiyan's prey. He was not about to let this guy escape. It's a bit late for that. Shangyun Feiyan snickered out of reflex, his fingers shining as he unleashed a world-shaking surge of power. No matter how far Zhuo Fan got, it would still kill him. This was the terrible power of a Sword King. Zhuo Fan could shake him with his earlier display of Thunderflame, but that was all he could muster. Shangyun Feiyan was more clear on this than any as he spoke after calming down. Humph, Gu Yifan, I got to hand it to you, you're a real genius. You've excelled in strength and in alchemy. That flame of yours had me running scared there, and given time, you might kill me one day, becoming the next overlord to this world. Too bad you showed yourself so soon, and you won't get the chance, I'll make sure of it. That black flame is only useful if it touches me. Gu Yifan, you have no chance now. Shangyun Feiyan swiped his fingers, and the soaring sword art was deployed in the form of a third sword, straight for Zhuo Fan and his son. Whoosh, the edge was behind him in a flash. Zhuo Fan looked back in shock and used the 5 shining halos in his right eye. Divine Eye of the Void's 5th stage, Thunderflame wall times 5. The black Thunderflame appeared once more, forming 5 layers in total to block the incoming sword. Shangyun Feiyan gaped, not expecting Zhuo Fan to come up with that, using the strange black flame as defense. It would have worked wonders if it were anyone else than a Sword King. Boom. The walls disintegrated in a flash, turning into motes of black fire as they faded in the air. Zhuo Fan shook and spat blood from the strong aftershock. Both of his eyes were also bleeding. As for the sword energy, it still went for Zhuo Fan. Ha ha ha, Gu Yifan, even with that oddity helping you, with your power you have no. Shangyun Feiyan cackled victoriously, but then he choked, turning incredulous. What the hell? My sword energy. SSS, the sizzling was the only prevalent sound around, stinging Shangyun Feiyan ears as he watched his ultimate sword skill going through Zhuo Fan's walls of thunderflame only to be eaten away by the same fire. By the time the fire died out, the sword energy was a quarter weaker. It was still strong, yes, but it was without a doubt cut down to size. If before the sword came from Shangyun Feiyan, now it looked to be resembling any average Genesis expert's sword attack. Sure, it'd be a peak one, but the gap was huge all the same. Central area spread beyond anyone could imagine and was teeming with peak Genesis experts. Despite that there were only 9 Sword Kings, that was because they were a cut above the masses. Shangyun Feiyan's casual sword strike had crushed 30 Genesis stage guards a while back. Danking Shen's sword was the same, putting most of the Shangyun clan's experts in a pickle. This was the power of a Sword King, unlike any other peak Genesis expert, able to take on 5 of them with ease. Even with the mortal domain's limit stuck at peak Genesis stage, these 9 Sword Kings stood above all others. If not for the mortal domain's limit, these would have long since become saints, at the same level as the experts in the sacred domain, if not higher. They might even shake some monsters out there. This peak worldly power had just been cut down to size by Zhuo Fan's Thunderflame, turning into something common and weaker. The shock was palpable to the trio watching, and so it was for Zhuo Fan too. He was the one on the receiving end in this fight, yet none underestimated him. Shangyun Feiyan's eyes shook. The black flame ate at my sword energy so quickly. This is insane. How the hell does such a thing even exist? The other two sighed. Their fear of Zhuo Fan was not for his strength, but because of the apocalyptic thunderflame. The flame was too destructive, burning anything and everything in creation. Not even martial arts could survive it. Such a thing had never happened ever. It was only a question of quantity in the black flame's case. With enough of it, any cultivator would be erased from this world. Their Yuan Qi shields would be eaten and their martial arts would fare no better. It wasn't a leap in logic to assume spiritual items would end up the same. This thunderflame was like hellfire, bringing eternal and absolute doom. If word got out, Zhuo Fan would become this entire world's enemy. Wielding the thunderflame was like having a weapon of mass destruction. The trio tensed as they watched Zhuo Fan, each with their own thoughts. Zhuo Fan was bleeding from his eyes, but not enough to shake his calm, even finding time to smirk. By cutting the sword energy down to size, he could now handle it. Zhuo Fan ignored his damaged eye and had his right eye shine in two golden halos, while his left flickered with the thunderflame, unleashing thunderflame void annihilation once more at the soaring sword art. The flames struck the sword, but they were once more dispersed as it went after Zhuo Fan still. Zhuo Fan suffered from it as well, with a splitting headache and spitting blood even as his eyes bled more. None of it mattered though, since he had the pride to grin. In the moment of clashing, even as his attack failed, the Thunderflame's character was unstoppable, and with void annihilation to complement it, it sent the flames right into the heart of the sword energy. This in turn made the deadly sword weaker and weaker. By the times the flames died, the sword energy was at a fresh Genesis stage cultivator's level. Shangyuan Feiyan was dumbstruck. In 2 moves, this great Sword King's prideful sword art was reduced so much that that was all the damage it could actually do after the other tried to stop it. Any meager Genesis stage cultivator could easily flick it away, something that bruised Shangyuan Feiyan's ego. At least Gu Yifan was just a radiant stage cultivator, and even this much was enough. If Sword King Feiyan couldn't kill a guy in even 3 moves, he might as well just kill himself. Sure, the other was just a radiant stage cultivator, but a Sword King still had his pride. Zhuo Fan had other plans in mind, besides giving his life to heal this Sword King's hurt ego. Grinning, Zhuo Fan showed confidence against the cut-down sword attack from a Sword King and used Divine Eye of the Void's 4th stage. Thunderflame Domain, boom, 1,000 meters around him, the space hummed, with the black thunderflame spreading everywhere with each vibration. The sword energy did not disintegrate under the vibrations, instead it slowed down, while being drastically weakened from the thunderflame. This was Zhuo Fan's method of dealing with the deadly sword energy, chipping it away until it was easy for his wounded self to take it. Of course, it was not enough to halt the sword energy completely, as it finally reached Zhuo Fan. But through the many trials, it was now at the power of mid-soul harmony stage, more than enough for Zhuo Fan to handle. Grinning, Zhuo Fan had his scarlet right hand lifted in complete confidence. So much for a Sword King's power. I can still take it. Zhuo Fan had forgotten about one crucial fact about this sword, something that made it pierce his almighty right hand even weakened as it was. Blood spilled all over and Zhuo Fan's smugness turned to shock. Why can't the killing arm stop even a soul harmony expert's sword? Did I miscalculate? Spewing blood again, Zhuo Fan held Gu Santong close as he fell to the ground with a bang. Resting in his crater, his blood stained the earth around him. Dad, Dad, Gu Santong cried, his weary eyes tearing up. Zhuo Fan gasped, Young Sanzi, I forgot to take something into account, but to think it led to such a heavy wound. Now I can't even use the dragon breath pill. Dad, are we going to die? Gu Santong was just as powerless. Zhuo Fan rubbed his head. Are you afraid? No, then leave it to luck. Zhuo Fan's eyes shone. Our lives are now in his hands as long as he remembers the deal. Gu Santong gave an understanding nod. Zhuo Fan's wretched state was all due to forgetting an important detail, one that led to the weakened sword energy reducing him to this. To the other 3, the outcome was beyond their imagination. Shangyun Feiyan was the most shocked. There has never been anyone in this world I can't kill after 3 strikes besides the other Sword Kings and invincible sword. Gu Yifan, since you're first, let me end you with the 4th sword. Shangyun Feiyan aimed the fingers at the wounded and unmoving man in that crater, filled with the intent to end this. There was hatred and resentment, but most of all, humiliation. His quarry was now defenseless, yet he was the one feeling defeated. The great Sword King had failed to kill a radiant stage alchemist in 3 strikes, the same way a buffed man couldn't squash an ant with his fist. People would disregard the ant's strength and mock instead the weakness of the man. Shangyun Feiyan's next sword held all his bloodthirst, the most dangerous one the damaged Zhuo Fan was going to face. It was within his calculation, but deviated somewhat, yet this little shift meant true death, even for Zhuo Fan. First is a show of strength to unsettle the mind. Second is baiting to get every guard out of the jail and give me time to rescue him. The whole guards throughout the city will be drawn as well, making our escape all the much easier. The plan does sound solid, but will they fall for it so easily? Shangyun Yulin hates Shangyun clan head to the marrow, thus making Shangyun Yulin detonate himself in his face, and with you raiding the manor, his mind will jump to conclusions I wanted out of rage. He'll believe beyond any shadow of a doubt that clan head is behind this. While I'll also scare the guards with this attack, making them feel safe only around Shangyun Feiyan, thus leaving the jail free to rescue him. This plan has a very good chance of duping Shangyun Feiyan, but that might not go the same for the wisest man in the empire, Beili Jingwei. His reputation precedes him and it's guaranteed he'll see through it. But no matter how shrewd he is, he has one glaring flaw I can exploit. What? Untold greed, ha ha ha. Though it's not really a glaring weakness, since any highly skilled manipulator will feel greater desire in always wanting things to go his way. The Pill King convention is the perfect example. He knew where all of you were hiding and laid a bait for the perfect trap to catch all of you. He is a man with a clear objective and great patience. So no matter what doubts he might have about anything, he won't act on them, but instead seek to outdo me in the same field by using this alluring bait. In that case, we should outdo him as well by following his plan of saving young Sanzi from the manor. Then what? Hunting me down to the ends of the world. I reckon they'd catch up in an hour of two. Escaping again will be even harder. Won't they just kill you? Yeah, only with death staring you in the face will you see the light of tomorrow. This is the only way for the two of us to escape Bailey Jingwei's hunt and leave the central area. Shangyuan clan head should just forget about it since I have my own plans. Boom, heavy rumbling came from afar, with a cloud of dust rising in the horizon, so high it covered the sun and the blue sky. Shangyuan Feixing's team was hovering high in the air. As he recalled Zhuo Fan's foolproof plan back in the cave, his eyes were fixed on the source of those loud sounds, his gaze heavy. He sighed. Everything went exactly as the kid speculated. Bailey Jingwei and the other two went after the kid to catch him. He's got valor and smarts, anticipating the enemy's moves, even Bailey Jingwei. One venerable shook his head in worry. Just what could the kid do to escape from two sword kings and a prime minister? The rest wore heavy frowns. Yeah, what can he do? There were so many of us, and not even we could save anyone from the two sword kings. There's no point worrying. He said he had a way, and that's that. Shangyuan Feixing sighed. It's quite amazing how everyone started caring about him in just a few days, ha ha ha. One venerable huffed. Who is? We're only lamenting the death of such a genius. And who are we going to take it out on if he dies without giving us the sword? Ha ha ha, Venerable can relax in this case. He said back in the cave that he'll hand it over once he escapes with his son. I had already sent men over to wait. Once Bailey Jingwei and the others leave, we'll look for the kid to hand it over. Feixing, are you just going to believe his words? He's too cunning, another venerable chuckled. Shangyuan Feixing showed a look of glee, nodding determined. I do, because he swore on his son. I don't believe any parent would toy with their children. He will keep his word. The others shook and nodded. And if he dies, there's a chance his plan will fall through. He'll still leave us with a trail so we can find the divine sword. Shangyuan Feixing looked at the disturbance once more with shaky eyes. Even if they die, he'll keep his words, only wishing to give the two of them proper burial to give his son his blessing. The men looked at the clan head and then nodded in silence. Gu Yifan's mind was more twisted than a gnarled root, but one thing they could all swear on was his undying love for his son. Shangyuan Feiyan's fourth sword unleashed a terrible aura, making the air shimmer around it. Zhuo Fan stared back with a grin in utter calm. As he waited, he chuckled at some point, closing his eyes and resigning himself to fate. It was done without an ounce of regret, welcoming the end with a free heart. With no hope of the two lovers getting back together, with enemies too strong to be overcome, nothing could ever get him out of such a hopeless situation. Zhuo Fan had carried so much weight inside him these past years, coming to bear too much alone. Even with the faint glimmer of hope presented to him, it felt always out of reach, always unattainable. The stress and grief had eaten away at his mind for such a long time. It was a recipe for disaster, avoiding insanity only because he trained the true self-art to center himself. The deeper the love, the heavier the wound. He now came to see why love was forbidden to demonic cultivators, for one man alone might never escape its torment. He found being in a situation where another was giving him a mercy killing was a fit ending. He should have died ages ago. Showing a smile only he understood, Zhuo Fan welcomed the end. Shangyuan Feiyan's sword rang constantly, aimed squarely at Zhuo Fan's head. As the bloodthirst in his eyes focused, the devastating sword was released. Zhuo Fan could feel its terror, but all he had for it was a faint smile. Shangyuan Feiyan's fingers did not finish cutting the air and sending the sword, as they were caught mid-move by a tight hand. Shangyuan Feiyan spoke in a chilling tone. Brother Dan, what are you doing? Bailey Jingwei was taken aback. I just think we should save it for after we find the soaring sword. Danking Shen's beard swished as he spoke. Shangyuan Feiyan huffed. With his character, there's no way he'll say anything. And is this a time to think about the soaring sword? He has now become a far greater danger than the sword's value. He has to die, right, Prime Minister? Bailey Jingwei nodded after a pause. Soaring sword is missing, and the patriarch will at most feel a longing for a lost toy. What we can't allow, however, is to permit anything that might endanger his life. The moment I saw the kid release the black flame, I was even more sure that he must die. It's clear to anyone here that it must be so, but wouldn't it be better to have it both ways? Danking Shen nodded and turned to the unmoving Zhuo. Gu Yifan, you heard it. Today's your funeral and you can't take the soaring sword where you're going. I am willing to fulfill your last wish, your will. You've come from the western lands and have been in the central area for a year now. You should understand that I hardly make promises, but when I do, I always keep them. Now tell me your dying wish." Zhuo Fan looked him in the eye with a smile. "Ha ha ha, let my son go. Impossible." Bailey Jingwei denied it on the spot. "Gu Yifan, you yourself said something about weeding out the remains." "We'll never allow this threat to live," Zhuo Fan chuckled. "Then there's nothing else. Damn rotten dying brat, since you love death so much, have it all." Shang Yunfeiyan's fingers cut the air again. Zhuo Fan's eyes lit up and waved him off. "Hold up, there is one other, however. It just came to me." "Then go ahead, say it." Danking Shen frowned. Looking from him to Shang Yunfeiyan, Zhuo Fan smirked. "I only wish for Dragon-Cleaving Sword King to be the one ending me. Why, I'd hate to see Shang Yunfeiyan happy. 3 times he failed to kill me, and I'd rather not have his 4th sword touch a hair on me. Let this Sword King carry the shame with him always, ha ha ha." Zhuo Fan cackled. Shang Yunfeiyan's face twitched and roared, his fingers finishing the move. "Goddamned bastard, I'll frickin' kill you." "Wait," Bailey Jingwei stopped him, turning to Zhuo Fan with a sharp gaze. "All right, we agree. King's promise, I would guarantee your last meager dying wish in exchange for the soaring sword. We all promise." "Prime Minister." Shang Yunfeiyan's brow shook, but Bailey Jingwei's wave stopped him. "Sword King Feiyan, please think of the bigger picture. Which is more important, your name or the soaring sword? Its loss affected Sword King's reputation all the same. In other words, Soaring Sword's name has already suffered, so what is a little more? Please bear this indignity for the Empire." Shang Yunfeiyan took a look at his most pathetic state. It wasn't the missing sleeve from one arm that got to him, but the damp pants that fueled his rage and shame. But in the end, he gave an angry wave and turned around, taking out fresh clothes to change. Bailey Jingwei nodded and smiled. "Sword King Feiyan has promised you as well. That should be all, yes." "Ha ha ha, yeah, now I can tell you where the soaring sword is. Only it's another matter entirely if you can get it." Zhuo Fan showed a crooked smile to an eager Bailey Jingwei, toying with him. "Soaring sword is now with the Shangyuan clan." Bailey Jingwei gasped. "They have it. Grandmaster Gu, are you making fun of us? How can a cunning mind like yours just hand it over to them?" "Ha ha ha, what else was there?" His loud laughter made him spray blood as well. "We all know I've had priors with Shangyuan clan, so I had to give them something to help me out." Shang Yunfeiyan's brow shook, his face heavy as he said, "Bailey Jingwei, letting those Shangyuan bastards get the sword will be even worse. With their power and numbers, they'll just flee and we won't catch them. It'll be hard even if a Sword King gets involved. Moreover, once they hole up in the expansive central area, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. Even if we do get wind of them by some miracle, the scouting team will just die for nothing without a Sword King leading them. This is really getting out of hand." Bailey Jingwei squinted, his face grave. But he did not once let his eyes stray from Zhuo Fan. "Grandmaster Gu, stop with the games. You're on your deathbed. You said you had priors with them and they won't believe you. But this goes both ways. Do you trust them? You'd have gotten the short end of the stick if you'd have just handed them the sword. They'd have just taken it out on you to vent for their losses. For a smart guy like you, such an obvious mistake is impossible." "Humph, Grandmaster Gu, don't take us up for idiots." Bailey Jingwei huffed, his eyes sharp. Shang Yunfeiyan's face twitched. Who is Bailey Jingwei calling an idiot? "Humph, damn that Prime Minister, acting like the only wise guy in the world. Prime Minister, would you say I'm in a position to insult you? Ha ha ha." Zhuo Fan shook his head. "But yes, neither I nor Shangyuan clan trust each other, so the handing of the sword is done at the right time so that we'd work out together against the enemy. Once the deal is done, neither will mind the other." Bailey Jingwei's eyes shook. "You mean, you are our enemy, all 3 of you, ha ha ha." Zhuo Fan chuckled as he explained, "I used them to lure you all away and rescue young Sanzi, then handed over the sword to the clansmen following behind me. This was the only way to make both sides agree. We knew that fighting would be bad as it would draw the guards over, leading to them losing the sword and us getting captured. So even with the mistrust between us, the timing called for us to overlook all our past problems and think of the bigger picture. Wouldn't you say so, Prime Minister Bailey?" Bailey Jingwei shook all over, believing Zhuo Fan's perfectly strung arguments. Shang Yunfeiyan asked, "Prime Minister, can we believe him? We don't have a choice." Bailey Jingwei was tense. We were clear on the hostility between him and the Shangyuan clan, and working together was out of the question. The only reason they did it anyway was for the soaring sword. The question is, when will it be handed over? Too soon and the Shangyuan clan will go back on its word. Too late and anxiety mounts, so much so the tense mood will make them settle old scores even after getting the sword. But with the threat of another enemy around, the deal will be completed, each going their own way. Bailey Jingwei stared hard at Zhuo Fan and spoke with frustration and hatred. "Grandmaster Gu, you're a true mastermind. You've done great indeed. If I were the one facing such a challenge, I don't think I'd come up with such a brilliant plan on the spot. You have my respect. Ha ha ha, why thank you for the honor, Prime Minister. Zhuo Fan waved his flattery away. Bailey Jingwei read the mockery in his eyes and turned to Danking Shen in anger. Dragon-cleaving Sword King, fulfill Grandmaster Gu's will and send them off. Right. Danking Shen drew 2 fingers and a deadly power surged in their tips, followed by a dragon roar and the space shimmering around him. Cold eyes gazed upon the feeble Zhuo Fan and Danking Shen raised his hand. Zhuo Fan stared back with a broad smile. Wuxia sword of the same level as Shangyun Feiyan's was unleashed upon Zhuo Fan. Along with thousands of dragon roars, the sword energy surged as it fell on him. Following the devastating explosion, hundreds of miles around Zhuo Fan and his son were leveled. There was nothing there than a wasteland and thick dust that dyed the world yellow. Once the breeze scattered it away, there was no trace of anything left behind. Everything was gone, buried with the sand. The entire landscape had been reformed into this desolation. Bailey Jingwei sighed at the destruction. It is finished. Such an alchemical genius of his generation found his bones resting along his sons in this sand burial. What a pity. Prime Minister, isn't it a bit late for that? Shangyun Feiyan glanced over. Hypocrite much, Bailey Jingwei said. Cherishing talent is one thing, but seeing my opponent gone brought me such relief. Dragon-cleaving Sword King Feiyan, let's go. We need to hurry back and send word to every corner of the central area. We have to track down the Shangyun clan and stop them from getting the sword out of the central area. Easier said than done. Shangyun Feiyan shook his head. I'll say it again. They only need to hide, and even a Sword King will hardly have a better chance of finding them, let alone the rest. The chances of getting the soaring sword back are less than 10%. Bailey Jingwei sighed, we'll do our part while the rest is up to fate. In any case, this has been our failure. Bailey Jingwei flew for flying Cloud City. Shangyun Feiyan shook, balling his fists and stealing his gaze. Bailey Jingwei isn't the only one culpable. With the Shangyun clan escaping and the soaring sword gone, Shangyun Feiyan was liable as well. Gu Yifan might have lost in the last fight. As a mere radiant stage cultivator, he had avoided 3 sword skills from a Sword King and even talked his way out of being executed by the 4th strike at his weakest. It was Shangyun Feiyan's worst defeat. Gu Yifan and Shangyun Feiyan neither won nor lost, but Zhuo Fan's last will and the mockery it contained was something Shangyun Feiyan would never forget. The shame and anger were ready to explode. It was the same as saying Shangyun Feiyan had no hand in his death. Shangyun Feiyan's face twisted, a vein popping on his forehead from being utterly humiliated by a nobody. Now he had no one to take it out on, for the culprit died laughing at him. Shangyun Feiyan stomped in rage and flew behind Bailey Jingwei. Danking Shen was the only one remaining, looking where Zhuo Fan once was with a vague smile. Sanzi, where are you? 6 hours later, in the area where a brutal cleansing had taken place, where not even a blade of grass grew, a pure and naive girl was shouting. The frail lass cried at the silent heavens as a gale blew across this desolation. Her tone was filled with worry, her cracking voice showing signs of breaking down crying. There were a dozen more youths looking around and shouting with her. Mr. Gu, young Sanzi. All their shouting and searching proved fruitless in these strong winds, swallowing their voices. They finally gave up hope an hour later, leaving only the girl still frantic and consumed with the thought of finding them. She never stopped, never rested, always crying out till hoarse, Gu Yifan, young Sanzi, where are you? Young miss, save your energy. You've seen what attack did this. They had no chance against such misfortune. There's no point searching. One youth sighed, it'll be a miracle if someone could survive 2 Sword Kings. Mr. Gu, let's follow Clan Head's words and look for any clues Mr. Gu left us to reach the soaring sword. The girl glared back at him, shut up. Gu Yifan is fine, they can hear us and we'll soon find them. They have to be, or Shangyun Qingyan trailed off. Young miss, in this desolate place, any kind of sign would have been noticed easily. If we can't see them, it makes no sense for 2 Sword Kings to be blind to anything obvious. That only leaves death, destroyed completely. Young miss, our top priority still is finding Mr. Gu's clues. He shook his head, trying to make her see reality, but then a ripple echoed out. 2 figures slumped to the ground, popping out of thin air and soaking the yellow dust with their scarlet blood. Shangyun Qingyan shook and cheered, crying tears of joy as she rushed over. Mr. Gu, young Sanzi, you're all right, you're still alive. In the name of all that's holy, the guy actually got away from 2 Sword Kings. What did this freak do? The guy held his head in complete shock, needing some time to react to this sudden realization. Then he rushed over to help, only for a bloody arm to clutch his shirt, dragging him down. He looked stunned at Zhuo Fan, who was gasping for breath, using the last of his energy to shout, I told you to come and help, not give me a burial. The least you could do is see if we're still alive, not go straight to business. Zhuo Fan's eyes rolled back and he was out like a light. Only his other hand held an unconscious Gu Santong, never letting go. The The youth who got stained looked at Zhuo Fan holding Gu Yifan close and spoke with respect. Gu Yifan is truly amazing. He's hurt so much but still has the energy to curse. He had been protecting his son all this time, not letting anything happen to him. Shangyun Qingyan nodded, choking with emotion and pain from seeing Zhuo Fan covered in those deep wounds. Get Mr. Gu and his son back now, they need healing. Noticing Shangyun Qingyan was in no state to boss them, the guy shouted for the others, carrying the two away. Across the large expanse of this yellow wasteland, a conspicuous stain of scarlet blood on the dry dirt was the only proof that someone had survived this ordeal. It took Zhuo Fan 3 days to wake up, finding himself in a dark cave. Nothing came as a surprise for him, knowing that they had been rescued. It was part of his deal with Shangyu and Feixiang. As long as they were drawing breath, they had to be tended to, or death was sure to grasp them in its cold grip if left out there in the desolate place. Shangyuan clan thus sent the juniors to save them. This was why Zhuo Fan knew that after saving young Sanzi, the Shangyuan clan would comply since he still held the sword they wanted. This was the perfect time to use it for all it's worth. With this sword around, the Shangyuan clan won't ever let me die. If the chances were death would have come instead, he'd have set the sword out of his ring for Shangyuan clan to take. He didn't need it where he was going. Zhuo Fan had taken all aspects into consideration. On one hand, he had bluffed Beili Jingwei into leaving, and on the other, he had Shangyuan clan eating out of his palm. The thought brought an insidious smile to Zhuo Fan's lips, resting as he was on the cold, hard bed. Ha ha ha, at the end of it all, be it Flying Cloud Manor or Shangyuan clan, all dance to my tune. I have turned despair into hope once more. Cackling like mad, Zhuo Fan stood up, only to feel a sudden pain stab at his mind. The agony coming from every part of his body made him grit his teeth. Damn that danking Shen, couldn't he have taken it easier? Then again, being ruthless was the only way of fooling Shangyuan Feiyan's senses and intuition. A faint and childish voice came. Dad, you told him too, and now you're blaming him for it. If the old man knew you're cursing him, he'd wished he'd killed you instead. Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow, smiling. Young Sanzi, you knew? Of course. Gu Santong just woke up, still pale but quite happy. Is there anything I don't know about you? Ever since you had Shangyuan Yulin sent to give me some nonsense signal, I knew that it wasn't meant for me. We never had private code phrases. What's that stuff about a gentleman's promise and wanting to save me anyway? I knew then and there it was for that old guy's ears, he. Too bad Beili Jingwei and Shangyuan Feiyan had no clue whatsoever, ha ha ha. Zhuo Fan nodded. Yep, the signal was for danking Shen, though I was still skeptical if he'd help or not. The most uncertain part of my plan was whether the old guy would play ball for the greatest deceptive outcome ever. His sword was savage and powerful, but scattered on impact, shaking the space around and hiding us from Shangyuan Feiyan's senses. I used this chance to activate Divine Eye of the Void's 6th stage, Void Domain, and hid us in a pocket space. It also helped cement the idea of our demise to Beili Jingwei and leave the area. And what if the old guy didn't help us? Gu Santong asked. Zhuo Fan shook his head. The idea was to make an opening for danking Shen to strike by becoming heavily wounded in 3 clashes with Shangyuan Feiyan. Next was up to him. If he was going to help, he was sure to speak up. If not, I'd have no choice but to resort to a dragon breath pill. But then everything went south when Shangyuan Feiyan struck me so hard that I couldn't even move, making throwing the dragon breath pill useless. There was only one way of getting out of there alive. Thank God the old guy was still nice. I finally get it now. There's no man proposes, God deposes, not when you have enough friends. More friends means more lives, hee. Why all the hassle, Dad? Just throw him a dragon breath pill to his face and be done. Young Sanzi, we only have 2 of them. Zhuo Fan rolled his eyes. It's easy to kill them all with one, but then what? With a prime minister and a sword king dead, the Sword Star Empire will then send the other 7 sword kings after us. That'll be the end of us. Even with 1 dragon breath pill left, can we get them all? Young Sanzi, no matter what a man does, even if it's wrong, he has to suffer the consequences. Using the dragon breath pill will end with us being hunted down and killed. We're not the Shangyuan clan, we have no one to shield us. The Central Area's Genesis stage experts can't handle them even if found. We, on the other hand, are finished. That's why a trump card like that can't be used unless it's the only one available. We're not on invincible swords level, so we can't use it to mow down grunts. Young Sanzi nodded, but then muttered, but you used one on Universal Righteous Sect and only got 2 now. Dad, didn't you mow them down? Zhuo Fan flushed from being stuck. Men are impulsive. I just wanted to know its power, that's all, ha ha ha. Father and son were having the time of their lives by themselves in that dark cave. Every now and then, Zhuo Fan had to wince and gasp from having pain stab his every wound for being too much into their game and ignoring his heavy condition, yet found it passing faster by cursing their savior each time. Damn rotten danking Shen, you just couldn't take it easier. Just that sword aura was enough to flay my skin. The old coot never heard of a softer touch. Danking Shen's rage would have blown sky high, only if he was here, of course. Damn punk, I just saved your pathetic life, and this is the thanks I get, being called names. Gu Santong had a grin on his pale face, thoroughly enjoying his dad's lively and childish act. Young Sanzi, how are you feeling? I'm now too wounded to tend to your situation, but once I'm better, I'll get you back on your feet in no time, Zhuo Fan hurriedly asked. Gu Santong's smile fell for a second, shaking his head. Dad, it's fine. I'm just feeling weakened and the wounds are healing. The Shangyuan clan gave me plenty of healing pills. That's great. Even their poor pills, unlike mine, can help your wounds, ha ha ha. Zhuo Fan chuckled at ease. Gu Santong's smile soon turned upside down, taken by melancholy. Zhuo Fan could tell that it was different with the other hand, as the blood was still seeping out despite the tight wrap around it. Rumble, the stone door opened, breaking the heavy silence. Shangyun Qingyan and the same youth Zhuo Fan grabbed back in the wasteland entered. The girls saw them waking up and cheered, "You're up, thanks for the save," Zhuo Fan smiled. Shangyun Qingyan smiled back, coming over to him and looking concerned. "Mr. Gu, your body is a wreck. Are you sure it's fine? We've used many pills, and while your other wounds healed, you don't have to worry about it. I'm an alchemist too. As long as my soul is fine, the flesh can be mended." Zhuo Fan's hand shone and a vial came out, taking out a green pill. The thick aroma was intoxicating, making the other clansmen cry out, "By God, using a 10th grade pill just for some flesh wounds. An alchemist is a different breed than our clan. Ha ha ha, it's only for the common ones, while young Sanzi will need a more particular solution. That's why I need to get back in shape to make him the right pill." Zhuo Fan ate the pill and used the returning dragon's roar. As dragons roared about, Zhuo Fan was brimming with vitality. The returning dragon's roar was the best thing when it came to patching up the body. A shame it didn't work on souls as well. With the healing pill complementing the returning dragon's roar, the two watched in shock as Zhuo Fan's wounds barely closed at all. Zhuo Fan then felt a stabbing pain from every inch of his body. Zhuo Fan looked down with a frown. "What's with these weird wounds that can't heal? They feel the same as the one vaulting sword gave me back in double dragon manner." The Shangyun clansman chuckled. "Mr. Gu, you must have been hit by Dragon-Cleaving Sword King's dragon-cleaving art. Despite the difference between his sword art and ours, they both come from insights in a divine sword. Wounds inflicted by such weapons will be hard to heal. I still thought you'd need 10 more days before you could stand. It's a miracle you are doing this now. An 11th grade alchemist sure heals fast, ha ha ha. Wounds from those sword arts heal slowly." Zhuo Fan soon came to his own conclusion as to why. The wound vaulting sword inflicted back then took ages to heal too. Since Danking Shen's art came from the vaulting sword, which hurt him, does that mean the sword art captured the divine sword's essence? Regardless of doubts, this was the conclusion he came to. Common folk being around a sacred weapon for long enough, they'd have its sword energy used for their cultivation, facilitating not only their training in a godlike sword art, but also unleashing greater power when using it. It was top-notch regardless of the stage it was used in. Is it maybe the power of the sword sovereign? Deep in thought, the casual movement of his right reminded him of the pain and winced. The pain coming from his body earlier subsided after using the pill and the returning dragon's roar. The issue now was the right hand. Shangyun Qingyan took his right hand and complained, "Easy, we've just bandaged it, but the bleeding won't stop." Zhuo Fan shook, seeing as the wrap was dyed red. Young Miss Shangyun Feiyan's soaring sword art must have caused the wound on his right. Anyone else would have their heal slowly, but this is so baffling that no pill works. The bandage is only temporary, and if this continues, he'll bleed out. The Shangyuan guy explained. Zhuo Fan's brow shook, looking at his right in fright. He felt his forehead and, though wounded, did not bleed, healing slowly. Shangyun Feiyan caught his gesture and said, baffled, "Mr. Gu, I looked over your condition. The wounds on your right arm have to be from Shangyuan Feiyan's sword. The strange thing is, it just won't heal, while the shoulder heals the same as the rest of you. I'd almost thought Shangyun Feiyan's sword was stronger than Danking Shen's. It's the killing arm." Zhuo Fan's eyelids shook, coming to a conclusion. That's why the soaring sword art at Soul Harmony stage could pierce it. The secret lies with soaring sword and soaring killin. The soaring sword and in turn, the soaring sword art targets the soaring killin in particular. That means young Sanzi. Zhuo Fan felt sharp pain as he rushed to young Sanzi's side, holding the bandaged arm that was bleeding just like his. Shangyun Qingyan gasped, hurrying to change the binding. "Young Sanzi is bleeding again. We have to stop it." "Young miss, that's only a symptom. They are both so strange, unable to heal the areas struck by the soaring sword art." The Shangyun guy shook his head. Shangyun Qingyan wouldn't give up, looking after young Sanzi with teary eyes. "Even if it doesn't heal, we have to do all we can. Having not even reached the ethereal stage, they'll die for good and won't come back." Young Sanzi, why didn't you tell me? Zhuo Fan balled his fists and clenched his teeth. Being in the ethereal stage, Zhuo Fan would have halted cultivation at worst, but he'd live. Young Sanzi was a sacred beast by comparison, with their body and soul as one. When one died, the other followed, and there was nothing to bring him back. Young Sanzi's bleeding condition was potentially deadly. Young Sanzi teared up, his pale lips trembling. Dad, I felt ever since the soaring sword art hurt me that I met my bane. I can barely hold on, I didn't want to worry you. Why didn't you say anything? I'm your dad, I'm supposed to worry. Zhuo Fan gnashed his teeth, taking out a vial from his ring and revealed 2 11th grade pills. Under the Shangyuan guy's gasp, Zhuo Fan took one and gave young Sanzi the other. Listen, this is from when I refined to save Shangyuan Qingyan. She had been hurt by the soaring sword art as well. It worked on her, and now we'll see if it works on us as well. If all else fails, I'll take you back to Western lands. Western lands, Gu Santong jumped. Zhuo Fan nodded with resolve. We'll ask those old coots to save you. They have to know a way, so just hold on, young Sanzi. Fan and Gu Santong flashed green, meditating to work its power to heal their wounds through their body, especially that bleeding arm. The green energy gathered on the wound, but that was it. It just could not go deeper and work its magic as something was keeping it away, soon fading out. With a soaked brow, Zhuo Fan gnashed his teeth and his nails dug into his palms. Shangyuan Qingyan was looking very worried from the side. With a ripple, Zhuo Fan resorted to force, using Yuan Qi and the healing energy to slam into the wound. All he hit was a wall. But as he kept pushing, the green energy seeped ever so slowing into the wound and began to heal it. As it improved, the bleeding slowed to a stop. Shangyuan Qingyan lit up with joy. Zhuo Fan eased a breath and looked at his killing arm with a nod. This pill has some use. Zhuo Fan turned to young Sanzi with hope, only to find despair. Gu Santong's arm looked to have improved, but it was marginal. The bleeding had slowed down, but not completely. His life was still in a very real danger. Shangyuan Qingyan gasped, Mr. Gu, you managed to heal, so why is young Sanzi? Zhuo Fan was in a constant frown, feeling bleak inside as the worst case crept among his thoughts. The soaring sword art may be Killen's bane. The two conflicting energies can't be resolved with pills alone. I fear that only a sacred beast can heal another sacred beast. I can only take him to Kunpeng and Dragon Ancestor in Western lands. The question is if I'll reach them in time. I only have a Killen arm, and since the rest of me is human, the soaring sword art isn't so harsh on me. Just who can save you? Zhuo Fan has made up his mind, holding Gu Santong in his arms and walking out. Mr. Gu, where are you going? Shangyuan Qingyan asked, taken aback. Zhuo Fan spoke, to Western lands to save him. Only Western lands has someone that can heal him. Western lands, Shangyuan Qingyan muttered, but Mr. Gu, you're still hurt. Let us take you, no time, Zhuo Fan gnashed his teeth, and staying with you will only get more dangerous. It's better if I go alone with young Sanzi. Zhuo Fan had pointed out to Bailey Jingwei that the Shangyuan clan had the soaring sword. Regardless of ever being able to stop them and get it back, Bailey Jingwei would still take precautions. The Shangyuan clan was bound to be running around the central area for the next while and might even resort to fighting central area's experts a few times. The two were too hurt, with the sun in critical condition, to join the chaos. It would only make it worse. Zhuo Fan barely got away from Bailey Jingwei, so why would he go looking for more trouble? Zhuo Fan had come to a firm decision to leave the Shangyuan clan. Shangyuan Qingyan watched his straight back and sighed. She wanted him to stay, but she knew he'd do anything to save young Sanzi. There was nothing she could say to keep them here. The roller coaster of emotions she was feeling had her forget why the Shangyuan clan saved them in the first place. It was all to finish the last part of their deal. So while her love-addled brain refused to work, the Shangyuan guy next to her had no such handicap, crying out, Mr. Gu, we won't keep you if you want to leave, but you have to first give the divine sword you promised us. Wu Shiclank cut him off as a scarlet sword stabbed into the bedrock. Zhuo Fan had then vanished with Gu Santong. It's good that we got the sword, or I don't know how I could have explained this to clan head, ha ha ha. The guy held the sword in pride and said, young miss, we should go see clan head. Shangyuan Qingyan was too overwhelmed to register his words, still staring in empty space where Zhuo Fan had been standing. He didn't even say goodbye, not so much as look at her. 3 days later found the Shangyuan clan's 300 meditating in a quiet forest in white robes. Shangyuan Feixing was frowning with worry, letting heavy breaths yet never speaking up. Pa, a thick hand grabbed his shoulder, startling him. Hi Venerable, what can I do for you? It's nothing, but seeing you eaten up inside these days. Are you worried? The old man smiled. Shangyuan Feixing nodded. Despite lacking danger, it's the junior's first mission. I just can't rest easy knowing the kid didn't want me to send some experts instead of youngsters. The kid is sharp. With our experts around him, he figured they'd settle the score, ha ha ha. High Venerable shook his head. Fake Sheng, you believed him when he swore on his son, so why the needless worry? I do believe him, but no one says incidents can't happen. Whoosh, the sudden sound reached his ears and his eyes lit up. He saw dozens of figures in the air, the juniors he sent for Zhuo Fan. In the lead was the apple of his eye, Shangyuan Qingyan. Shangyuan Feixing's worries over these days finally eased. The rest of the experts gathered around the juniors, eager to know the result. Shangyuan Feixing rushed to Shangyuan Qingyan to ask, "How did it go? Did you get the soaring sword?" Shangyuan Qingyan sighed and left with a lowered head. The rest felt uneasy. Why is young Miss so glum? Did the kid die and leave no trace of the soaring sword? Why then did they took so long to come back? Clan head, here is the soaring sword. The guy who was with Shangyuan Qingyan around Zhuo Fan bowed and presented the scarlet longsword. Ha ha ha, lit up and touched the blade. Ha ha ha, it really is the soaring sword. Our mission is a success and we can go home to Eastern lands. Everyone cheered and jumped in joy. Then what's with that girl having a long face? I thought you failed for a second there, ha ha ha. Shangyuan Feixing eased a breath and glanced at his daughter looking depressed by a pond. The Shangyuan guy bowed again. I believe it's because of Mr. Gu, that young miss. He explained everything that transpired and everyone looked stunned. You're saying he's alive? Shangyuan Feixing's eyes shook. He actually came out alive from not just two sword kings but the prime minister of this empire. They were aware of Zhuo Fan's plan and how reality followed its every step, but to actually achieve the last and hardest part alive was inconceivable. They found it far more believable for Zhuo Fan to die and leave clues for the divine sword instead. This made the news of Zhuo Fan's flawless execution of the plan a total shock. The guy paused, seeing everyone wearing dumb looks, and bowed again. Clan head, Gu Yifan is wise and brave, a real hero. When we found him, he was still protecting his son despite the heavy wounds. His character isn't the issue here, but being a miracle worker is. Shangyuan Feixing's face twitched and sighed. A single sword king has enough power to do everything he wants. Two of them around, they are invincible. Then there's Bailey Jingwei, the wisest in the Sword Star Empire. His intellect alone could make him a sword king if it was strength instead. Yet none of them, despite covering every aspect, could stop a radiant stage from toying with them and come out alive. Shangyuan Feixing sighed, actually relating to them, since when could the opponent we feared so much could be controlled so easily? What's worse, can't any of the experts of our best clan in the Eastern lands match to one radiant stage kid? Ha ha ha, what an utterly ridiculous joke. The cruel irony is even more obvious from how we lost so many people with our plan while the kid easily got the sword without losing anything, ha ha ha. Shangyuan Feixing shook his head hard in defeat. The precious divine sword they all wanted so much all this time was now in their hands, but it felt flat, dull, giving them no sense of achievement whatsoever. It was because of the circumstances of the retrieval. The soaring sword wasn't recovered through their blood and sweat, but a kid did it and sold it off to them. They not once won against Shangyuan Feiyan. It was the kid all along who did everything, fighting, toying, and surviving. Shangyuan Feiyan was the Shangyuan clan's biggest traitor, but the victory belonged to a kid's resourcefulness. None of them were better than a meager, radiant kid. Clan head's desolate figure holding the divine sword killed everyone else's joy. They felt nothing from it, not when another scored a win and just handed it over. It was a subtle contrast between taking and receiving the win that made all the effort worthwhile. By taking it yourself, you proved that you had the ability to do it, while having someone just hand it over was a humiliation. It proved the other guy was better than you, being thrown to the side by the enemy and focusing on the better adversary. Such a win felt empty to them, having no value. They believed Shangyuan Feiyan's group, when they fought, did not show any regard to them, always thinking about Gu Yifan, Shangyuan clan. They're nothing. Gu Yifan, a radiant stage kid, came around out of nowhere and robbed the Shangyuan clan of their honor. Sure, he got the soaring sword for them, but they didn't look quite as thankful. The three venerables knew their feelings and chuckled. Feixing, the soaring sword is back where it belongs. We now should focus on leaving the central area. Name, reputation, glory, they come and go many times in life. As a clan head, I know none of these are important before the clan's righteousness. We're lucky to have suffered a few losses this time, ending with our win. I'm very happy to see this, but Shangyuan Feixing tensed and sighed. Having thought about everything that happened, I can't help but wonder if I'm fit to be the clan head. Feiyan was right, I'm beneath him in power and potential. I'm headstrong and can't see the bigger picture, unable to be proactive like Gu Yifan and Bailey Jingwei. Their convoluted and intricate plans opened my eyes at how deep their schemes can go, of how detailed they are. I think that the next time we clash with Bailey Jingwei, I will cause the death of everyone. I Shangyuan Feixing am plain with no outstanding quality. Will keeping this chair of mine help or lead to disaster? Ha ha ha, the clan might not grow much under my helm. I've seen Gu Yifan's handiwork, his cruelty. No low is beneath him, even detonating someone, but one can't deny the results either. Having him as a son-in-law might not be such a bad idea. Leaving him to take over from me will raise the clan to new heights. At least he's far more capable than me. The Venerable looked him in the eye. Fakesheng, we all knew there's a limit to what you can do, but do you know why we picked you? The choice was between me and Fei Yan, but he was too conceited and erred constantly. Shangyun Fakesheng frowned. The Venerable chuckled. Everyone makes mistakes. You think we didn't let him take the seat because of some mishaps? We even had a long dispute back then over Shangyun Fei Yan's talents. Why then? The Venerable smiled. The ruler is to be wise and not rash, average and not proud. The former is for the royal succession to avoid vies for power. The latter is to avoid the biggest faults in one's character. Average people hardly achieve success, but they also represent stability. They need but find a capable official to assist and they can thrive. As for the egotistic rulers, they think themselves above everyone, that they can do everything and won't ever take advice. They can take the clan out of trouble, yes, but one day it might lead it to disaster. That is why an emperor would always choose the average son over the proud one if there's no one talented and having virtue. Virtue has always been the main criteria for all ancestors. Shangyun Fakesheng nodded. I see. You were afraid Fei Yan's arrogance would lead to the clan's demise, so you renounced him. Then what of Gu Yifan's virtue? The kid's virtue ain't bad. The Venerable waved Shangyun Fakesheng's question with a vague smile. Shangyun Fakesheng jerked. Second Venerable, you mean he has it? How come I don't see it? Ha ha ha, if you could, you'd have seen Shangyun Yulin's degenerate character. Fakesheng, you can't judge a book by its cover. He may behave cruelly, but deep down he's a man of principles. Don't lump cruelty with being insidious. Insidiousness always strays you from the path, but his path stretches far and wide. The Venerable smiled. He may be cruel and unscrupulous, but everything has a purpose. He was only after his goal when he clashed with us, but did nothing despicable. Think about it. Did he forego righteousness for gains? Did he go back on his words? And most importantly, he's a loving father that would do anything for his son. How bad can he be? Well, I've seen people far worse than him, looking dignified but resorting to atrocities when no one's looking. Such a kind and dark youth is worth making friends with, better than those insidious and petty ones. Shangyun Fakesheng nodded after a pause. Yeah, the kid only clashed with us in our goal, but all he said and done is to my liking. He's like a demonic gentleman. Then my plan, Fakesheng, you should just forget it. The Venerable cut him off. It's not a bad idea to have him as your son-in-law. He'd also benefit the clan by having him around, but not the clan head. Why? He's far more qualified than me. Is it because of his scheming? No, his scheming is very much within reason. He's in conflict with our beliefs as he walks the demonic path, regardless of how upright he is. The Venerable said, it's just that he walks in solitude, unfit for a clan head. Solitude. He has no ties with anything but his son, let alone a clan. He can't take the helm of a clan. The Venerable sighed. A clan head bears on his shoulder the fate of his people, holding within him their lives and deaths. But he is alone without such responsibility. He is indeed capable, but not fit for a clan head. As for being like Bailey Jingwei, governing the empire, or a clan head's right hand, there's no one better. Shangyun Fakesheng nodded after digesting his words. He bore too much solitude to carry the weight of a leader, a loner meant to roam the world, but a cultivator communing with the world had such a quality as well. While too many mundane affairs hindered one's comprehension of the inner workings of the world, doesn't that mean it's us who are led astray from the straight and narrow? The sky was sifting large snowflakes as far as one could see, dyeing the world in shades of white. A month had gone since Zhuo Fan's battle, with autumn making way for winter with its cold snow in the flying cloud city. Danking Shen watched the heavy gray clouds outside, peaceful as they filled the air with snowflakes, covering the sun's every ray of warmth. Despite the glum outside, he was sitting cozily by a lively fire in a lavish room, sipping his delectable tea with a most conspicuous smirk. All Dan, when little old me's in trouble, please look after me. Boy, I didn't do it for you. I won't make it hard on Sir's old bones. All I ask is for you to strike hard and I shall find life in death. Ah, ha ha ha, boy, where are you now, I wonder? Winter has come and I'm sure even aiming my sword away from you still gave you no light injuries. Dragon-cleaving art's power isn't something you can heal. Look after yourself in these winter days. Recalling their promise, Danking Shen sipped his wine, yet joy danced in his eyes. The boy has been suspicious of me till the end, going as far as sending someone to remind me in Shangyun Feiyan's hidden room. Ha ha, how pointless. Dragon-cleaving sword king, you're in a good mood. Mind sharing with me so I could enjoy it too? I've hardly ever saw dragon-cleaving sword king smile, ha ha ha. Rows of guards entered, bowing and making way for Bailey Jingwei in fur clothing. He made himself at home, sitting right next to Danking Shen with a smile. Shang Yunfeiyan came next, sitting nearby, sticking one leg over the other, looking bored to death. Brother Dan, share with us this fine mood you're having. This past month, if not dull, it has been glum. Ha ha ha, getting your paradise ruined and the divine sword taken tends to do that. Danking Shen took out a jade slip. Here's my report on my domain. There were signs of the Shangyuan clan around, and I have come to ask for the next course of action. What? Shang Yunfeiyan snatched the jade slip and cried, those old fools ran off to your side of the empire. But that leads to northern lands. What are they doing there? They must be taking the long way around through northern lands. Bailey Jingwei's eyes flashed and resumed sipping tea by the fire's cozy warmth. Shang Yunfeiyan followed. Prime Minister, what do we do? Nothing. Bailey Jingwei sighed. The central area is just too large and gives the Shangyuan clan too many places to hide. I had notified the 9 sword kings to look out for them in their domains, but without concrete signs to look for, they'll find nothing. Furthermore, with some sword kings' laid-back attitude, some not even present in their domains, things would only get harder. Prime Minister Bailey, I'm here, aren't I? Dragon-cleaving sword king, I wasn't talking about you. But that wine sword immortal that loves to hit the bottle. Bailey Jingwei's eyes flashed and gnashed his teeth. He's a sword king, but all he does is partake in local beverages at every chance instead of leading his domain. How damn superficial. He even makes trips to other lands too. Humph, just what was the point of giving that domain to him? At least with Shangyuan clan's faint traces, even around he won't be of much use. Danking Shen grinned. I have to say I admire that old guy, so free and casual. Brother Feiyan, he'll be back in a few days. Want to ask him out for a drink? Maybe he got back some good stuff from where he's been. You go, I'm not in the mood. Shang Yunfeiyan gave an impatient wave. Just how did you manage to do it anyway? Danking Shen raised an eyebrow. How else? When they asked me how to do it, I told them to play dumb. The Shangyuan clan came here en masse and with 3 old coots strong enough to face a sword king, so while I wasn't around, they were bound to die if they pushed them. So they just let them go. Why you? Shang Yunfeiyan's face twitched, turning to the other. Prime Minister, see that? He's lazy at his job. When the invincible sword comes along, I'll be sure to tell him. Glancing at him, Bailey Jingwei chuckled. I advise Sword King against pettiness, for I'm with Dragon-cleaving Sword King on this. What? Doing something pointless is utterly idiotic. Taking his teacup, Bailey Jingwei took a sip and drawled. Looking for the Shangyuan clan was just a matter of appearances, never intent on following through. What's the point of handing them the lives of hundreds of people? We lost pure and simple. There's no shame in it. Now we need to get ready for the Patriarch's admonishment. Report. A guard barged in and presented a jade slip. Prime Minister, Imperial Capital summons you. A summon? Bailey Jingwei smiled and took the jade slip. I've been away for 3 months and His Majesty wants me back. Ha ha ha, I hardly get any vacation time like this. There are so many places I haven't seen yet. Sigh, no rest for the wicked. Just what got the Imperial Capital so on the edge they need me to solve it. How pretentious can you be? The Empire can't go a single day without you. Shang Yunfeiyan's mouth twitched and revealed a crooked smile. Prime Minister, politics sure keep you busy. Without Sir in the Empire, the sun loses its shine, ha ha ha. Bailey Jingwei caught his jab, but chose to ignore it as he read the summons with an unspeakable calm. Though minutes later he winced and cried, What happened? Shang Yunfeiyan flinched. Bailey Jingwei said, Patriarch has come out and is calling court with the 9 sword kings and all officials. He wants to move in on northern lands. Invincible sword is out. Shang Yunfeiyan and Danking Shen cried out at the same time. The world will be in turmoil soon. What do you mean? Followed by prosperity, I mean, ha ha ha. At Bailey Jingwei's long look, Shang Yunfeiyan and Danking Shen gave a dry laugh. Bailey Jingwei shook his head. I'll ignore it this time, but please watch your words, sword kings. You are the revered 9 sword kings of the central area, the cornerstones of the Sword Star Empire. If the empire is flourishing, so are you. If the Patriarch is powerful, so are you. Above all else, never treat Patriarch as your adversary. While I do understand the urge in practitioners to find worthy opponents to test their mettle, a house divided against itself cannot stand. Understood, the two nodded. With how little impact he had on these strong sword kings, Bailey Jingwei did not press the issue, shouting instead, Guard, prepare to return to the Imperial Capital. I and the sword kings are going to greet the Patriarch. Yes, sir, a man bowed and rushed to work. Bailey Jingwei spoke again. Also, I had you look for a reliable person from Western lands. Did you find any? Prime Minister, I have. Then send him to Western lands and keep an ear out for anything of note. Bailey Jingwei sighed. Shang Yunfeiyan asked, Prime Minister, why are you sending someone to Western lands? Can a single random guy slip through the land's defenses and arrays to spy? I don't need him to find me secrets, but a man's background. Who? Gu Yifan. Bailey Jingwei's eyes flashed. Gu Yifan has been a worthy opponent. Even though he died, I still want to know everything about him to remember him by. As a manipulator, he had very few pieces in his hands, and who knew, maybe if he were but a little bit stronger, he'd have won, haha. Bailey Jingwei did not finish his thought. Who was to say who came on top when two equal opponents collided? Shangyu and Feiyan spoke. Gu Yifan has been nothing but cunning. He came to act against my manner, so there's no way he would leave clues to his true identity. The greatest lie isn't based on just deception, but mixing lies and truths. Bailey Jingwei spoke. Gu Yifan is a clever guy, and I'm sure he didn't give me only lies, for it would have made him too suspicious. It's especially easy to be exposed when lying about local customs and products. While his name might be fake, his origin isn't, and with his smarts, there's no way he's unknown in the Western lands. So I want to find who he was, just what kind of man could hold his own against me. In a world of white, with snow piling up incessantly, dyeing everything in its pure color, even a mountain of a man would find that he would have to trudge along through waist-deep snow to cross this place. On this final month of the year, the Earth's vitality was subdued, with hardly any man venturing out in this harsh environment. Even a powerful cultivator would rather avoid such blizzards, not wanting to face the heavens and this desolate world of white. Though in these particular parts, two lone figures, two mere specks in the sea of white, appeared on and off among the snowfall. Crack under the crumbling snow with every step, a thin man paused to readjust the young child on his back, puffing out white with every breath before resuming his trek. He swayed under the biting winds, only to press harder and regain his stalwart stance. The frail child looked at the bitter and icy world around him, then at the man's body, toiling to carry him. He parted his cracked lips, sobbing, "Dad, I won't make it. You've been making me 11th grade pills to slow the bleeding and recover my blood, hurting your already wounded soul in the process. Then you still insisted on carrying me for months. Now you can't even fly. You can't keep doing this. Dad, let me go and move on. My time is up. I don't want to be a burden." Quiet, the man panted and raised his waned face, only his eyes shining with unflinching determination. He just gritted his teeth and pressed on. "Young Sanzi, listen up. I am your dad and I won't have this. No matter what, I'll get you back to the Western lands alive so those two can heal you. But the Western lands is so far away. How can we reach it in time? Dad, you can't go on doing this either." Zhuo Fan's eyes shook, moving on by sheer stubbornness. "Even if I have to walk all the way, I'll still make it. We don't need to keep moving much longer. In half a month, we'll reach Goldbow City. There's a teleportation array to every land there we can use. We'll be back to Western lands before you know it." Teleportation array? Gu Santong shook his head bitterly. "Dad, you know as well as I do that the Five Lands teleportation array is split into official and commercial routes. The official one belongs to the Sword Star Empire, and we couldn't use it even when we arrived in the central area. This won't change now. And the commercial route belongs to the biggest merchant union in all the lands, ignoring any politics involved between them. To use their teleportation array, we need the consent of the leader in each land first. How are we going to pass their questioning when we're supposed to lay low?" Zhuo Fan squinted, his brow shaking, but his eyes were firm. "With me around, I'll definitely use it." Zhuo Fan took a heavy step, and as the sweat built up, he not once stopped from rushing. "Dad, you're the best." Feeling Zhuo Fan's kind and wide back, Gu Santong teared up, sobbing and slowly falling silent from feeling so weak. Blood trickled down his hand and onto the pure white snow, taking with it just a bit more of his vitality, leaving him defenseless against the elements with the coldness seeping in. Unaware of young Sanzi's situation and oblivious to his last words, Zhuo Fan's mind was set in one direction, to push on. Eyes flashing, Zhuo Fan took step after step, trudging forward slowly and leaving deep marks behind. 4 hours of toil brought Zhuo Fan to gasping, but nothing deterred him from walking. Only in the 6th hour, Zhuo Fan's foot began to slip, barely able to raise it for another step. Even relying on his weight to push away the snow no longer helped as it did. In the 10th hour, Zhuo Fan was at a turning point, fully spent. His mind was willing, but the body hardly made any progress, numb and cold. His spirit had been so tense and focused all this time that it finally gave in, rendering him unconscious. Gu Santong had fallen asleep a long time ago, his tender face growing hard as coldness sapped his warmth, and the slow dripping of blood from his arm seemed to announce the end was nigh. The howling wind never ceased, the biting snow never stopped blocking the two's hard journey, soon burying them in white. It did not take long before any sign of their passing was gone, and the same went for them, erased by nature's cold embrace. The world was a cruel place, swallowing every being alike. All of us were nothing but visitors on this plane, bound to return in its arms. Rumble, a carriage with huge wheels, was pulled by 3 20-meter-tall spiritual beasts, actually stomping through the thick snow with relative ease. These were third-level spiritual beasts, having no trouble galloping through this harsh weather. Inside the carriage were thin curtains along with the fragrance from an incense burner lingering about, hiding the pretty figure inside, unmarred by the bleak desolation outside. Halt! As the carriage stormed through the snow, a loud voice came from within the carriage. The three spiritual beasts stopped on the spot. "Young miss, what is it?" a young voice asked. "Zhuo, is there blood outside?" Blood. The curtain was lifted to reveal a charming face of a 17-year-old girl. Her eyebrows were sharp, focused as she looked around. "Are you perhaps mistaken, young miss?" "There isn't any." The first voice spoke again. "Zhuo, go outside and check if they've been buried under the snow. They may be alive." "Ah, don't awe me, do what I say. I've been a healer for so long the scent of blood is easily recognized. But with such heavy snowfall, they must be under it. Zhuo, go already." The voice was sweet, but carried with it an irreproachable tone. Shrugging, the girl jumped down and searched while complaining. "I'm going, damn, what a young miss you are." "What was that?" Nothing at all. Ah, I found someone." As she pushed away the snow, Zhuo suddenly cried out, plunging her thin arms into the snow and pulling two people out. Seeing the blood on the ground, Zhuo shouted, "Young miss, you have such a sharp nose." There were two people buried in snow. The older one seems frozen while the younger one is bleeding, close to dying. "Bleeding in such bitter cold," the rushed voice from within said. "Zhuo, get them inside, hurry. The little one must be gravely wounded. I have to heal him." "Right away." Zhuo was about to act but then paused. "But young miss, they're male. It's not right to have them in your magnificent carriage. No man has yet to step foot in it." "It's fine if it's the child, but..." "There's no time to mind the rules. Lives are at stake." The tone coming from inside went cold. Zhuo bobbed her head and threw the two inside. She jumped in herself and the carriage resumed its mad dash. All that remained was a stain of scarlet in a world of white, slowly fading beneath the endless snow. Zhuo threw the frozen father and son into the warm carriage before a thin curtain. "Young miss, here they are. Only the child's blood is dripping on the tapestry. What a shame. Nothing is more precious than life. The tapestry can just be cleaned later." A scarlet thread slipped from behind the curtain and grabbed Zhuo's wrist and sent Yuan Qi through it. Zhuo grumbled, "Why would you care? You're not the one washing it." "Zhuo, is that another complaint I hear?" "No, nothing. Young miss is so magnanimous and kind. I could only work myself to the bone for young miss." Zhuo proclaimed her undying devotion on the spot. The figure behind the curtain giggled. "Stop being so sour, girl, and try to be more serious. He only has some heavy wounds, overstraining himself and his Yuan Qi. Give him Yuan Qi pills and let him rest. He'll then wake up." "Yes, young miss." Zhuo Fan helped Zhuo Fan in swallowing an azure pill, but then said, "He's in the radiant stage yet overworked himself. He's no beginner cultivator that can't control his strength." "It's not always about control, but giving one's every drop. It's out of their control. The child must be why he's been out in the snow." Whoosh, the scarlet thread came out from behind the curtain once more, going for young Sanzi's pale wrist this time. Her voice was laced with shock at the discovery. "This child is strange. There are two energies inside clashing constantly and not letting his right hand stop bleeding. I have to stop the bleeding quickly before it's too late." "Zhuo, a clotting pill?" "Yes, young miss." Zhuo sensed young miss' urgency and restrained her playful nature as she fed Gu Santong without question. The pill turned into a red stream that flowed through his body and to his wound. It never reached it, clashed into something inside, and was forced to dissipate outside. The bleeding did not stop, flowing harder now due to the violent reaction of the pill. The scarlet thread on young Sanzi's wrist shook, sending a ripple behind the curtain. The young miss cried out, "Since a 5th-grade hemostatic pill doesn't work, then use the 7th-grade hematoma pill. The child won't stop bleeding as long as those energies aren't settled." "Yes, young miss." Zhuo had never seen her young miss so distraught and fed young Sanzi the pill. The result was the same even with the hematoma pill. The force was too strong for the pill to harden, forced out without any effect. The consequence was even dire in this pill's case, causing Gu Santong to bleed even harder. All the effort Zhuo Fan spent these months, the toil he went through to make the pills and slow down young Sanzi's bleeding, were all thrown away here and now. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Zhuo Fan would surely scream himself hoarse at this idiotic pair. "Don't do anything if you don't understand it. You're killing a child." The two girls were blissfully unaware of the child's severe condition. Watching things get even worse, the girl and the young miss started to panic. The young miss started demanding frantically, and the girl fed many pills to young Sanzi. All ended the same, with young Sanzi's blood flowing in torrent now and dyeing the tapestry scarlet. Zhuo was losing it. "Young miss, what do we do? We're only making it worse. What's going on with his wound? Nothing works." The young miss was grave, but then she exclaimed, "Did a divine sword harm the child? That can't be it. Even those wounds aren't as grave, slowly healing in the end. Just why is he showing no improvement?" "Young miss, it doesn't matter why. The older one might wake up any time now, and how will I explain how his son just died?" Though there's nothing scary about a radiant stage. Zhuo spoke with a sorrowful smile. It'll affect young Miss's eminent reputation. We should have just left them there. After a pregnant pause, the young miss spoke. Saving a life is better than any fancy honor. S&C, I have seen them. I can never turn a blind eye. Zhuo, use the North Sea gel on the child. What? Zhuo gasped. No, no, no. That's too valuable to be wasted on simple flesh wounds. We paid too high a price and worked too hard to get so little of it from the northern lands. It's meant for clan heads' use for emergencies. You can't just use it on a stranger. It's too much of a waste. The young miss was pondering this as well, but soon her firm voice came. I, immortal healer Murongzu, have not once have anyone die on me, and certainly no child. No matter how precious the gel is, it can be earned again, while the child only has one life. And with Big Brother's strength, it's hard to say when he'll actually need it. But won't it be wasted if it ends up the same as the pills? It's never a waste to use spiritual herbs to save one's life. Murongzu was very detached from the material as she spoke. Zhuo, what are you waiting for? Are you the young miss here or me? Zhuo hesitated, totally against the idea, but young Miss Tone demanded obedience, and she had no choice but to suck up her grumbling and take out a gourd. She let a transparent liquid drip out, releasing a sweet odor as it covered Gu Santong's wounded arm. By miracle, every place the liquid touched, the blood stopped leaking. Soon, the liquid covered the entire wound and hardened, keeping the blood inside. The foreign energy inside the arm struggled to fight this interference, only to be crushed without remorse by a sudden silvery light. The liquid had a faint silver glow as it seeped deeper into young Sanzi's body, vanishing completely. Behind it was left young Sanzi's pristine arm, unmarred by any scar or wound. Zhuo cheered. Young miss, it worked. The child saved. The North Sea gel is a world wonder, a wonder drug for healing. The young miss relaxed a breath. The joy was short as Zhuo recalled the loss of most of the gel and spoke sadly. 10 million sacred spirit stones. Down the drain, clan head is bound to flip at the news. Ha ha ha, my brother is refined and won't be angry knowing we saved a life. I hope so. 10 million sniff. Zhuo was still in pain over such bitter losses. She glanced over to the unconscious Zhuo Fan. Hey, you owe us 10 million sacred spirit stones. Don't you ever forget it. A chuckle came from beyond the curtain. Zhuo, how can a radiant stage have such wealth? Kindness isn't done for a reward. When he wakes up, we'll send the father and son off. Humph, they got it too good. Zhuo pouted. What kind of fortune did they have to stumble upon the young miss in their hour of most desperate need? Not just saving them, but for free too. It's better to fleece them of everything once they wake up. We can't have them think money falls out of the sky at every turn. Murongzu smiled. They were oblivious to the fact they had lent a helping hand to a demon archon, one whose wealth belied his slovenly appearance. He had so much on him that he could repay that North Sea gel many times over, with room to spare. Rumble, the huge carriage, was rushing through the snowy wasteland, shaking now and then Zhuo Fan, who lay inside on the carpet. Maybe one bump had been too hard to ignore. Maybe his yuan qi reserves were back. All that it mattered was that he roused, his dried lips parting to speak weakly. Young Sanzi, young Sanzi. Then he just bolted to his feet, shouting his son's name in panic. He was filled with fear and regret of what might have happened. He knew he just woke up from blacking out. But what about young Sanzi? With no one to stop his bleeding or take him to western lands, his life would slip away with every drop of blood. Zhuo Fan's brow shook and clenched his fists. The regret inside him threatened to consume him whole. How could he just black out and leave his wounded son uncared for while he rested? He was so consumed in his thoughts and feelings he failed to notice the missing cold and snow. God damn it, what's with that racket? You scared me to death. Another shout came that made him flinch. Only now he took in his surroundings, the ever-moving carriage. Across from him was a cute and lovely lady of 17. She was holding an adorable boy of 8 who was looking pale and recovering. Zhuo Fan eased a breath and scanned the place before asking the girl, Miss, did you save us? Why, you don't like it. Then give me your life back. Shooting him a look, the girl scoffed. Zhuo Fan grumbled at the most rude reply. Guess he got used to always having the final say, always having the last word. Finally being on the receiving end had him stuck and irate. The only reason she wasn't a bloody smear on the carriage's walls was for saving them. Thanks to the true self-art, my violent tendencies had been curbed a lot over the past 2 years. You should be lucky you met me only now, Humph. Zhuo Fan forced down his anger, strained a smile and cupped his hands. Ha ha ha, I first want to thank you, miss, for all you've done. And may I ask what got you in such a bad mood? Do I owe you a fortune? Ha ha ha. What do you think? Zhuo Fan was joking but hit the last right where it hurt and made her more depressed and annoyed. Startled, Zhuo Fan was even more baffled. I've only just met her, so how could I owe her? By her extreme reaction, I must have really done something at some point. Zhuo Fan was perplexed, but the girl just rolled her eyes at him in despair. 10 million, oh, 10 million. The two were stuck in a complete tangent from another, with neither getting the other's intentions. It was then Zhu's soft voice came from beyond the curtain. Zhuo, act like a lady and not so stuck up. It's been 5 days and you still aren't over it. Holy, someone else is in here. Zhuo Fan jumped, now noticing the fourth presence. The sudden rousing and all that happened made him forget to scan the area. From her voice, he could tell that she was the boss lady and this girl only the servant. Humph, what a pretentious maid. Zhuo Fan lost his early amiable air, looking coldly at Zhuo. I see, it's your young miss that saved the two of us, not you. Why the sour look then? You didn't do anything anyway, only using her name. Zhuo Fan saluted the curtain with all respect. Thank you, young miss, for saving the two of us in our time of need. You, Zhuo was fuming mad and whined to Zhu. Young miss, see who you worked so hard to save. Zhuo, it's you who started it. Don't blame others for your problems. Take it as a lesson and try not to do it again. Zhu scolded her maid and spoke coldly to Zhuo Fan. Sir's words weren't proper either. As all life is equal, I do not need any reward for saving you. I only wish for you to be upright and do no evil, making my efforts worth it. Please don't make me regret saving a demon. Ugh. Zhuo Fan let out a dry laugh. I only just put the maid in her place and she's calling me a demon. Then again, I'm certainly no saint, haha. Zhuo glared at him and turned the lecture on him. Hear that. Young miss wants you to be nice later on, or we can take back your life anytime we want to. Ha ha ha, being nice is all up to me. You have saved me but don't need to worry about it. As for taking back the life you just saved, only I decide how I go down. Zhuo Fan sneered with a glint in his eyes. I, Zigu Yifan, never owed anyone any favors. I'll make sure to return this grand gesture at the first chance. So thank you for all the trouble these days, but now it's time to leave. May we meet again. Zhuo Fan grabbed Gu Santong's hand and stunned the two with his actions. Zhuo was stumped by the nerve of this guy, having just been saved from certain death. Then he started being all cocky-like, as if it was these two's endless glory for saving him. Zhu was stunned and sighed, not nice at all. Zhuo Fan exclaimed, having noticed the smooth arm of Gu Santong, with not even a scar on it to show his past suffering. What's going on? Young Sanzi, Zhuo found the leverage to snap back. Young miss, in her infinite mercy, had brought this poor child back. He is unconscious but stable. What a pity, the young one is such an innocent creature, while the elder one is so vile. Young miss saved the wrong person. Thank you, Zhuo Fan forwent his rude attitude and thanked. I don't matter, but you've done me a great favor for saving my son. Any request you may have, I will fulfill it, no questions asked. Zhu sook and nodded. Sir is quite peculiar, but fond of his son. This proves your heart still has some good in it. My only reward is for you to come back on the straight and narrow. Good, Zhuo Fan's face twitched. I thought you were joking. I've been evil all my life. I have no clue what good is. How does it even work? Young miss, he's getting off too easy. Just look how cocky he was. It'd be a shame not to ask for anything. Luckily, Zhuo stepped in to clarify it all, holding out her hand. Since you want to pay, then pay your fees. Zhuo Fan chuckled and nodded, as it is right. How much? Just a smidgen, 10 million sacred stones. Zhuo sported a vile grin. Zhuo Fan flinched. Why so expensive? What kind of pills did you use? Not like he couldn't pay, but that he was stunned. Even without the fees as an excuse, he'd still give 10 million as it was only right. Those dead rocks meant nothing when young Sanzi's life was concerned. Zhuo misunderstood completely, of course, thinking so many zeros scared him and laughed. You can't, can you penniless? I bet you don't even know what sacred stones look like. Then just give me all you have, even though it's hardly anything of worth. Zhuo, Zhu admonished. Zhuo Fan spoke, Miss Zhuo, I can give you that much, but I'm curious what kind of drug you use that is so valuable. If it's not the drug, then I can still pay it as favor for saving us. You think we're lying? Zhuo huffed, taking out a gourd and showing it to him. You know what's inside. Miracle drug North Sea gel. If not, listen well. It's a valuable recovery medicine even in northern lands. We had to spend 10 million sacred stones to get this little and used almost all on your son. Isn't it normal for you to pay at least that much? Sniffing the gourd, Zhuo Fan frowned. North Sea gel? There's no mention of it in the 9 Serenities secret records. Is it from the mortal domain? But to save young Sanzi, it has to be miraculous. He smiled at Zhuo. Miss, since you only have a little left, give it to me for my son and I'll give you 20 million to make up for it. Haha, 20 million. I bet you don't have spirit stones as much. That's not the issue here. Will you accept? Zhuo Fan asked. Zhuo raised her head, not believing a word. Fine then, only a fool won't take advantage of such a damn deal. Give me your ring. Zhuo Fan's eyes shone and chuckled. Zhuo did so and Zhuo Fan's ring touched hers. Zhuo Fan then took the gourd and his son and was off, laughing. Miss Zhuo, a deal's a deal, bye. Wait, I still haven't checked, Zhuo cried out. Zhu gasped, what is it, Zhuo? Young miss, 20 million sacred stones are inside the ring. The guy is actually loaded. Zhuo was bug-eyed, struck dumb by the glittering rocks in her ring.